Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the July meeting of the Board of Education of the Eldred School District. If you could please stand and take the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We're going to do the oath of allegiance for our newly elected board member, Allison Wagner. I'm going to ask her to please stand. Okay, just need you to raise your right hand and then you're going to say this.
Okay. Just on my own. I, Allison Wagner, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of the State of New York, yep, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of the Eldred Central School Board member according to the best of my ability. Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome. Yeah,
Just like that. Thank you.
The first order of business is to nominate the president of the board for this upcoming school year. Do I hear any nominations?
I nominate Carol.
I'll second.
I nominate Brian.
Am I able to second my own nomination? I suppose I can. I'll second that.
Alrighty. Now that we seconded it, are there any other nominations? No? Okay, can I have a vote on the first nomination for Carol Bleefernick?
We have a comment period on the nomination.
We can.
I'd ask you guys to indulge in some discussion over the nominations. You guys okay with that? Okay. Have any of you guys spoken with Dr. DeFore regarding the nomination for president for school board? President?
I did mention to him that I would be interested, yes.
Yeah. Allison?
No.
All right, so have you spoken with each other?
No.
All right, so that's why I think it would be beneficial to have a discussion. So what I'd like to do is to speak for just a couple of moments on what I believe we should do as a board. I've prepared some notes. I don't usually read from notes, but I think this is important to communicate with you guys in a way that's respectful and appropriate. So I wanted to thank Ms. Wagner for the nomination, first of all. I wanted to also let you know that I have no interest in being the school board president. It's not an aspiration of mine that I've ever considered, mostly because it's not suitable to my personality. I'm not a front man. It's probably why I'm a drummer, because we sit in the back and we keep the beat. We let the guitar players and the singers, dance around up front. It's probably why I'm a firefighter, because we put the scratched up shield down so that we're all equally anonymous in our duty. It's probably why when I attend school events, I kind of sit in the middle of the bleachers, unassuming. I'm always careful to make sure that the student athletes and the performers and the teachers and coaches know that I'm there, because I know that it's important to them. Particularly since I heard from a respected coach that they always do look to see that the board administration supports them. But I think I've been very effective down there at the end of the row in the fifth chair, leading some very positive change over the 2 years that I've been part of your team. I'd hope that you are able to take a step back and acknowledge that while my approach and my style have not always been the best, I'm not good at politics or even board work for the most part, that my issues have driven the agenda over the past 2 years, and that almost every idea that I've brought to you that had never been brought before, when it comes to a vote, it's unanimous. Almost every one of them, and they're big, important things. So, I don't particularly care. I think that it'd be best if I sit here in the fourth seat now and continue to contribute. And I'm absolutely comfortable with Carol as a leader of the board, but I think that the board is at a crossroads, and that it's on us, and we have a responsibility to respond to the message that we've been sent by the people that we were elected to represent. They've demanded change. It's been very clear to me over 3 years now that they've been sending us a message that we've, I think, been unable to hear. Linda, I can see you're getting aggravated, but I just wish you would indulge this, okay? Because I think that it's important. It's important to the people that we represent, okay? And stop me, by the way, if I say anything offensive or that you disagree with, just cut
Oh,
me
I
off, okay?
disagree.
You disagree with, I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
Okay, so go ahead, let's hear it. We're having a discussion, so I'm open to this.
Brian, you're sitting here saying, oh, we've been appointed by the board and we're doing what the people want. You don't understand that the people out there, you're saying what you want to hear. The people out there, the majority, are not looking at this board with the way you're thinking they are. We have never been at this dissension in the 10 years I've been on. And I don't know if they're coming to you guys, but they're coming to me and it's not good. I'm not gonna even say what they're saying.
Okay, well, you should.
So, well, but you do this and you make, this makes me crazy. We get along.
I see that, by the way. I can
You
see
and
that
I
it's
get
making you
along.
crazy.
We played the-
But let's just discuss it professionally,
Okay,
instead of being crazy.
but you and I as a person, people get along.
Yeah, of
But
course, yeah. We've done good things together, Linda.
We have. But you don't see what other people see. You say what you want to see.
No, well, no, okay, you know what, I'll give you that, Linda. We all do have a tendency to kind of observe things from our own perspective, right? And it's hard to take a step back from that and recognize what other
And
people
you're
want us to
making
see.
board meetings 100% longer. You're making it so
Well, I'll tell you, I
we
have
can hardly get anything done.
fully commit to making the board meetings longer.
And I want that on record. We can hardly get anything done.
I think we've gotten a lot of things done, Linda. Now, I appreciate that, Linda. Let me just share with you what I observe from the people in terms of raw data and statistics, okay? So let's not take this from the way that I see it. I'm just going to present to you what's going on, okay? Let me start with direct democracy versus representative democracy, okay? In New York State, here in Eldred, every year people have an opportunity to go to the ballot box and vote on a couple of things. One, they vote on the budget, yes or no. They vote on capital plans and issuance of new debt, yes or no. And then they vote, when we have a contested election, on which of the candidates who are running for a 5-year term do they believe, once they take their seat, will best represent their interests, okay? But once they vote each year, now that's on our hands. So it's important for us to understand what it is that they've asked us to do.
Because you went from house to house to house to house. None of us have ever done that before.
Well, I continue to do that, Linda. I go from house to house to house all the time.
And
I
we've
speak with
never had to
people.
do that before.
But I think that if you're going to represent people and you're not just going to see it from your own perspective, it's important for you to constantly engage the people that you represent so you understand, okay? That's what has been done.
You want them to hear.
No, not at all. No, Linda, listen, I see things from a completely different perspective as an individual. I have 3 little kids in the elementary school, but I don't think you've ever heard me once represent my own personal interest as a parent or a taxpayer. I represent what I hear from people. Now, if you want to talk about the way that they've been sending messages to us, that has been through elections, okay? So let's just go through that briefly. When I was elected to this seat, Linda, and I know you're not going to like this, when I was elected to this seat, I didn't know what I had been elected to do. What I knew was that I ran on a platform of change the school board. Somebody was looking for us to change the way we do things. But I didn't know what that was. I had heard little tidbits, okay? So what I did is I went back and I looked at every election that has been held in the Eldred School District for the past 37 years. And I've shared this with you previously, and I brought printouts. You can see it. I'll share with you at the end of the meeting. I compiled every budget vote, every referendum vote, and every school board election that has been conducted in Eldred over the past 37 years. You've seen that, right? I wanted to figure out what it is that the voters send to us every time they get that one chance each year to tell us what they expect us to do. And based on that, I've drawn some historical context of when people will support our budgets, when they won't support our budgets, when they're looking for a change candidate, when they're looking for the status quo. And that all guides what I think that I was asked to do. But then I also do constantly, Linda, go door to door, and I talk to people all the time, and I find out what they're looking for, right? So I know that you think that I see it through my lens because I am very vocal with my advocacy positions, and I'm kind of a pain in the butt when it comes to things that I believe in. But I'm doing it based on what I think is the people have asked us to do. Now, they keep asking us over and over and over again, okay? Now, I just want to go through a couple of the most recent examples of elections where they've come out through the direct democracy process. They've given us a message that we need to hear as we now represent them and make a decision. The first decision we're going to make is, who do we appoint to our leadership positions? Are we going to do this in a way that responds to what they've told us, or are we not, okay? So, I am not very good with words sometimes. So I'm going to show this to you visually, okay? I brought in some visual depictions of what I would like to show you. Okay? So let's take a look at the most recent election last, okay? So in this most recent election, this was historically significant. We had never seen anything like this, okay? What we saw This red line represents how similar the votes were for each of the three things that the people had to vote on. They had to vote on our budget. It was a $17 million budget. What is resoundingly clear is that our entire community, by a significant margin, overwhelmingly supports spending on our children's education. They support us, even if they have problems with the way that we spend their money. Even if they have problems with the way that we hold people accountable, they support spending on education. They also, by an almost equal, right, one vote separation, significant margin, support spending money on special things that come up from time to time, even if it's $1.4 million in the purchase or the lease of new school buses. Like, identical. That's never happened before. We've seen a lot of times where the budget passed and the bond failed, or the bond passed and the budget failed. This has never happened. But by an equally significant statement, and this is very significant because we don't have very many contested elections, and we certainly don't have any 30-point margins. We haven't had that in many, many, many years. By a significant margin, they also said that they wanted to change the school board. They did not care. Linda, I don't think they cared about Doug Reiser, and I don't think they cared for, no offense, I don't think they cared about Ms. Wagner.
And do you see how you're presenting this? You went out, and nothing personal, but you went out, I don't know if it was door to door and campaigned for Allison. You didn't see one.
No, I didn't. Did I campaign for you?
Okay, I didn't say you did, but I'm just saying. But you didn't see one sign for Doug, you didn't see one letter for Doug, you didn't see one anything for Doug. So you're representing the public that, nobody knew Doug was running. And that's what people have come to us and said.
Let me, okay, I'm going to do this visually once again, okay, for the benefit of everybody, okay? Yeah, Doug didn't campaign very actively. I don't want to bring Doug into this, by the way. He's not here. And by the way, it wasn't about Doug. Doug is a fine public servant. He did a fantastic job as a board representative, okay? But what Allison did do, and I'm sorry, Allison, to put you on the spot, but I think this is important for people to understand. Allison put up yard signs all over the place, okay? So Allison's yard sign said, time for what? What is it?
Notice.
Oh, come on, Brian. Time for change. Okay, that's what it said. That's what people voted for. There were 90 some of these.
That's how you ran.
Yeah, so Linda, I ran on Change the Score. Now, by the way, nobody knew who Brian Siegel is. Brian Siegel's not part of this community. I was new here. I'm born and raised in Port Jervis. I'm pretty well known down there, but nobody knew who I was. I knocked on some doors, okay, so people got a chance to meet me personally, but this election was not about me, okay? Now I'm even beginning to understand, by the way, Linda, that this last name is a problem here in town, okay? But the fact is I was elected because I said change the school board.
Brian, you told me you were going to go do everything you could to get people to vote against me.
Of course, Linda. I've told you that. I've told you that personally,
right?
right?
You're telling people what you want them to hear.
No.
Not telling them what they're telling us.
To what end is this discussion?
Well, I want you to understand.
I want them to understand.
I don't think that anybody's mind is going to change.
No, I don't think so either,
So
Carol.
then-
I have no intentions of changing anybody's mind.
Okay, so then
But
they're not
what I-
going to understand anything differently.
No, this really is, it is for your benefit because I'm asking you to do the right thing, to respond to what the people have asked us to do, because I just don't want to go through these again. These elections are getting a little bit exhausting and counterproductive. We spend months talking about politics versus school board
And it
issues.
shouldn't be politics.
No.
So these are my postcards, right? Demand change. These are Allison's postcards. Nothing changes if nothing changes. Vote for change. I mean, it's very clear. This has been 3 years in a row. Now, let me just go back just one moment, okay?
So that went out?
Yeah, this went out to everybody in town. So did this one. This is what people voted for. They voted for change, okay? But that's their only chance, once a year, direct democracy. Does this help? It's not what we think. It's not what I think. It's what the people have said to us. And these aren't close elections, Linda. I won by 20 points. Allison won by 30 points. Amador got 45% of the vote
Because
because they
that's the
split the
last thing
change
they
vote.
saw.
Because they what?
Linda, please.
Because they what?
understand.
They split, 55% of the people wanted change. Even last year's election, right? It's not, Linda, please give the people more credit than responding to a postcard. I mean, they wanted to change the school board. Now, they maybe not know who I was, right?
Again, to what end
Okay.
are we doing this?
What I would suggest to you is that I would like to go back just one more time to the bond referendum in December of 2014. This is when I first started coming and talking to you guys. It's when I first started paying attention to school board governance. It was very strange to me that a new guy in town, but well-connected through volunteer things and talking to people, for me to go out in the community and hear one thing and come to the school board and hear something entirely different. You guys were unanimously in support of the $5 million bond plan, but everybody out there had significant concerns. Linda, I came here and I listened to you passionately
Mm-hmm.
defend the generator, the $400,000 generator.
absolutely
But you were
right.
the only one who wanted that, Mrs. Bowes.
You're right.
Honestly, what?
You're right.
So now I'm the one who's seeing it from my lens. Linda, you were the only one who wanted that. The whole community was ready to rebel against that. Then, Dr. DeFore, I met with you right before the vote. I don't know if you remember the meeting, but I came in because I wanted to explain to him, you not knowing who I am, on me being a parent in school, I wanted to explain to him some of the statements that I had made on social media so that there was no confusion about what I believed and what I didn't believe. And during that conversation, Dr. DeFore said to me, Brian, when it comes to these votes, I usually have a pretty good handle on these things. I know which way roughly they're going to go. But this one's too close to call. Now, it wasn't too close to call, okay? It was 335 no, 135 yes. It was a 200-point margin. We've never seen a bond fail that badly. Is that Dr. DeFore's fault? No, it's not. It's us. The board has a responsibility to be out there in the community talking to the people, collecting their feedback, representing their interests, and informing our administration of what their thoughts are.
What we have a responsibility to do is represent the interests of the Eldred school taxpayers.
Absolutely.
That's what we have.
And students.
We do not necessarily have a
And students.
responsibility to go door to door. We are open, we are available, we talk to people. How we do it, whether we do it as much as you do or differently than you do, is totally irrelevant. My responsibility to serve the people of this community, I have hopefully done very, very well in the time that I've been on the board, period, end of discussion. There should be no other argument about how it's done or whether we're doing it, your way, our way, another way. We are representatives. We've been committed for a very long time. You've been committed for a very long time. I don't think that there's any point to this discussion.
Okay,
If you
let
want
me
to,
clarify. I'm doing a bad job. Carol. No, I'm sorry,
let me just say this,
Yeah.
Brian. Let me finish what I'm
It's
trying to
not
say.
me.
If you want to stand your position for school board president, then please do that.
Yes, okay.
But other than that,
Let me skip to that, Carol.
okay, please.
Let me skip to that, because what I was trying to
But you said
say
you didn't
is...
want it, school president.
What's that, sir?
I thought you said you didn't want board president.
I don't, Carol, Linda, I don't. But what I'm saying is that how many more of these elections are we going to go through where we've got contested, elections consuming our time, where we have to keep replacing board members in order to send you guys a message? They're looking for change. Now, I believe, by the way, Carol, and I'm actually comfortable, I think you would run the school board president position differently than it's been run in the past, because I think that's important as well. It's really a symbolic position. I mean, you really do run the meeting agenda, you help to set the agenda, you serve as a figurehead in certain capacities, and you sign documents on behalf of the school board. It's been a little bit more than that lately, and I think that's a problem. But I think that what we have an opportunity to do as our first official act as reorganized board is to respond to the people by sending them a message, even if only symbolically, that we've heard them loud and clear. They voted for change 3 years in a row now, and we get it, okay? It's a symbolic thing. Now, listen, I told you earlier, I don't have any interest. I think I'm going to do very good work right here, okay? And I know how this is going to go. But I've been asked by people to represent their interests, and I'm going to make a very strong case for why I should be the board president. That's what you've asked me to do, Carol, okay? So, I've actually written this down, bear with me, okay? Over the past 2 years, and stop me if you have any credible argument against what I'm about to say. Over the past 2 years, I have been indisputably the most active and most visible member of the school board.
You've been the most outspoken.
Loudest.
That is all. That is all.
No, Carol, now...
The most active, I will argue with you. The most, what was the other thing? The most
Visible.
visible.
Well, that's important when you're a public servant.
I go to school things, maybe you're not there,
Not
maybe
really,
you
though,
are.
Carol. No.
Excuse me?
No. Actually, you don't, Carol. That's part of the problem, is that no one is... I hear this all the time from people. Where's the board? Where's the administration? So let me just break it down, okay? I've attended the greatest number of regular and special Board of Education meetings. You guys' attendance not so good, okay? It's really not. I mean, I haven't broken it down, but it's not so good. I come here all the time. I've missed one meeting. One in my 2 years of service. I've also represented this board at many internal and external events, including NISBA workshops, conventions, trainings, BOCES events, student center events at Mackenzie and the high school, sporting events, home and far away, in events that recognize our teachers and staff, and events throughout the wider community that I believe might directly or indirectly benefit our school district. At nearly all of these events, I've been the only board member present. It's not been unrecognized by people. And I'm comfortable doing it, but it's been strange being the new guy, being at all these events, standing next to Dr. DeFore. I do so because I know it means a lot to our students and our teachers and coaches to have the board support, and I feel personally compelled to attend, mostly for that reason. But also because personally witnessing and participating in these events helps to inform my decisions as a board member. For example, here are the events that I've represented the board over the past 2 years. And I would argue that this list is more comprehensive than any list that any of you
Oh,
represent.
please, you are not going to go through a list of everything that you have been at for the last 2 years.
No, not everything, no, but the important things. These are things that I
Brian, I
believe the
give you
board
that.
should...
You come a lot more, you have kids in the school, I don't.
No, I attend most events that my kids have nothing to do with.
I'm giving you
and I'm not
that,
even
and you are
including-
very active that way. Fine.
I'm not
I don't
including
need to
anything that my
listen
kids
to
do.
a list.
I thought you just said that your participation in school functions rivals mine.
Oh, no, and do not misquote me.
Okay.
What I said was I attend many things and I'm active in this community and I am invisible. I am visible to this community. I did not say that I attend as many things as you did. I never said
Well, I'm
that.
not trying to have a contest on that. I just do think that it's
Brian,
important for
don't
the
take
board
the
to do
words,
so.
don't take the words and change them. I did not attend as many things as you did. That does not mean that I am not visible. Granted, given, let's leave it.
Well, I don't know if I-
Can
I
you
don't
be
know
a
if I-
little more concise about this? Because the timing.
Well, so let me share this with you guys. This idea that we're going to have short school board meetings, we're not going to tackle tough issues, we're not going to hear from the community,
No,
that's
Brian,
got to
it's
stop.
about the students, though.
What
We
students?
don't, this is wrong,
This is
Brian, what
not,
we're doing.
this is not,
We grant you, well, you're given, okay? We give it to you, God to be said. But that's not, let's talk about what we need to talk about.
Oh, trust me, we've got plenty to talk about this evening, okay? We're going to continue.
You're really
so.
gonna do this?
Yes, Linda, I am going to do this. This is 3 years, I'm surprised at you guys, I really am. 3 years now where people get once a year an opportunity to send us a message, and it's been so overwhelmingly, compellingly clear that they want
You're
change.
saying that, but,
I'm not saying, I just showed you, Linda.
and I hear what
Do you
you're saying
think
too.
Doug did something wrong? Did Doug do something wrong that would have cost him?
Absolutely, he did not go out there and show himself.
Really? Okay, so I hear this each year. It's because of faulty campaign. Please. It was about people wanting to send a message to change the board.
What?
I'm going to stop unless you stop.
No, I won't. Actually, I won't. But I will, I'm open to questions and
Call me
comments.
when it's time to vote.
Sorry?
I said, call me when
Linda,
it's time to
so
vote.
one thing we're not going to do anymore is we're not going to continue school board meetings when the 5 of us aren't willing to participate. If you're not willing to participate, we'll suspend the meeting.
I'm not participating, I'm listening, you're.
No, I thought you were just about to leave.
Taking over.
I thought you were just about to leave.
No, I said, call me when it's time to vote.
Okay, so if you're not interested, we'll just suspend until you want to
I'm
participate.
interested in the students, I'm not interested in extending the board meeting night after night
This
after
is about the
night.
students, Mrs. Bowes. Listen, do you know that, we'll get into this a little bit.
It's about why we should
It's
be
all about the
president.
students. It's all about the students, Linda. It's all, for all of us, and there's no doubt about that. But this needs to be done differently.
Does anybody feel like I do here?
Mr. Siegel,
If you-
this is
yes,
a discussion
Excuse
about nominating and electing our president.
Right, yes, exactly.
So, does anyone besides Brian want to continue that discussion?
No.
Okay.
I make a motion.
I don't know if we can make a motion to cut off comment on a,
I think there's got to be a time limit, or there isn't, there's going to be something.
so that's what I was afraid
We're in
of.
the middle
I
of a
thought we were
vote.
going to start imposing time limits on discussions, and I just think we have too much important work to do to impose time limits. I think that if you
I
guys
can't
aren't
take
willing
this.
to, sorry?
I can't handle this.
So would you like to resign from the school board?
That away.
Brian.
Good point. That's one way. to
Because
do
you've said it a couple of times that you can't handle it.
You began this issue
Don't think
just
so.
now, this last issue,
Don't think
as
so.
Linda was about to go somewhere or leave or whatever, saying that you wanted to make a new rule. What I'm saying to you is that we are going to impose time limits if we can pass it as a board, because we are not going to sit here and be harangued.
I'm not trying to harangue you.
Oh,
I'm trying
yes,
to-
You're
you
making a good job
are.
of it.
Listen, let me just, I'll shorten this.
definition of the
I will
word.
shorten this,
Thank you.
okay?
Okay,
I will
thank you.
shorten this. I'm just going to give you one specific example. Have I been outspoken on my opposition to NISBA's advocacy platform?
Yes,
Yeah, I don't want to join NISBA. I voted against.
Definitely.
renewing. But you guys all decided that we believe in NISBA, that it's a value to the district.
I do.
Every decision we've made that I initially disagreed with, I have supported. okay? I attended the NISBA convention. I go to all kinds of NISBA events, right? You attended on behalf of BOCES.
I'm there for both schools, but yes,
Okay.
they paid for me, so
So-
Eldred didn't have to.
Okay, that's very good, yes. And it was good seeing. I have attended numerous NISBA events. just one recently. I begged you guys to come to. I thought it was very valuable to network with people around the state. I think not all good ideas come from within our district. Sometimes it's important to talk to other people and bring in new ideas, which I do constantly. So the fact, it's just an example of a place where, look, I'll fight for what I believe is right. But when the board comes to a consensus, I'll make the most of it for the benefit of the district. NISBA is just one example. The Common Core Task Force. How many meetings have we spent talking about Common Core? I know it's important to you, Linda.
That's right, we were talking that.
We formed a committee and we made very good things happen that hadn't in other schools. By the way, who initiated that conversation?
You initiated the movement on it.
The what?
You initiated the movement on it.
Yeah. It had
I mean,
been, and I
ever since
think
it
what
first
you guys
came.
said at the time is, why haven't we discussed this previously? Well, that was my question too. Sometimes
well-
it takes some outside energy, outside perspective.
The board know that ever since it came into being that it gave me agita.
Fine, let me wrap it up. I was told recently by a person who I have tremendous respect for, and a staff member within our school district, that it is very disconcerting to the children and to the employees to not see the school boards and the administration's representation at their events. I took it to heart. It was nearly a year and a half ago. And I have made it a point to make sure that I get there, as I said, mostly so that they can see us there. We don't have to get involved in it. We don't want to be part of the show. We want them to know that we support them. And as much as people want to say that, you know, I like to say no to things or I like to question things, I absolutely support everything it is for the kids and for the staff and for the teachers. But as a Board of Education, we have a responsibility to be a little bit more energetic about our showing of support. And I've taken that to heart.
Thank you.
Bear with me. I'm going to share this, I think, for the benefit of the community in a different way, since you guys, correct me if I'm wrong, you're not interested in hearing the things that I've contributed to the school board process for the past 2
We've
years.
been here, we've watched it, we've heard it.
Okay. I just want to say, once again, we're treating this, I think, this vacancy in the school board president position, like it came about by happenstance. Like we have an unexpected vacancy as a result of something happening to our former president. We should elevate one of the people to fill it. And that's not at all what we should be doing. What we should be doing is responding to the message that people keep sending, that we need to change the way that we run our school board. And I just don't think that you guys, even if you wanted to, would be able to do it.
I took considerable time thinking about this.
You have? Well, sure.
Absolutely.
What are you going to do differently?
What am I going to do different?
Because you told me it was because we just didn't knock on enough doors on behalf of Doug Reiser.
No.
Oh, I think so.
I believe what Linda is saying right now, though, is that she's taken considerable time thinking about nominating.
Oh, of course. I know that. I know that has been thought about extensively by you and by Eldred and Carol. I get that. I knew exactly how this was going to go down. I just wanted to make the case that we have a responsibility, after the people have had their chance, to go out and express their will through the ballot box, to come back here once we have 5-year terms where we're virtually untouchable in terms of accountability, to respond to what they asked us to do. And clearly, we're not going to do that. Now, I don't want to waste anybody's time. We're just going to make that statement very clear. Okay, so let's go ahead and vote. And I apologize for wasting your time, but I will share with the people who have asked me to do so, the people that elected me to serve here, why I feel that this is a mistake. Let me correct it. Carol, I think I will absolutely support you 100% as school board president. I think we're making a mistake in the message that we're sending. That's what I meant to say. I'm sorry.
But I'm going to tell you something, and I've said this 100 times, so forgive me. The 3 most important things in my life, I'm going to lose it any second,
Well, then don't do it.
are my faith, my family, and this school. I worked 36 years here. I've been on the board 10. These kids are my life. So don't tell me we're just sitting here or whatever, you know? I mean, we need a change, well,
Linda, I don't know, sitting here, I'm sorry, I don't know what whatever meant. I was trying
but
to.
I mean, these kids are all of our lives. We wouldn't be
Every
sitting
one of
here
us,
if they
no
weren't.
doubt about it.
But, and as far as hearing a change,
Do you hear it?
yeah, the other way around, I swear to God.
No kidding. They voted for Allison because they have a problem with me? All right, is that what you're saying to me?
Nobody had an agenda in voting for one or the other.
Right.
Allison won fairly and squarely. She's been
Change.
welcome to this board. You know, you started change a long time ago. You've talked about change for a long time.
It was Obama.
And your passion is
The
to get
fact
this.
is, but the fact is that change, for change's sake, does not help us.
No, that's not what
We
I'm
are-
saying at all, Carol.
Excuse me, I'm not
Yeah,
done.
sorry.
We were financially in a very precarious position not that long ago. We have come round the corner. We
Exactly.
are doing okay.
Exactly.
We are working hard as a board, and we have great faith in our leadership.
And that's-
Consequently, there is no reason to change what is working.
Okay.
And listening to people, I hear people all the time. I talk to people all the time. Just because they're not saying to me the same thing they're saying to you,
Right.
doesn't mean they're wrong. The ones who are speaking to me or the ones who are speaking to you. But it is not, this is not right now helpful to us to continue. You've made your point, okay? I think we need to
Well,
let it go and move
Carol,
on. We have a
I have
very
not
long
been
board
given the
meeting.
opportunity to, you're talking about the length of the board meeting again, Carol. I hope this is not going to be a trend. We are going to have lengthy discussions because while you may be
Relative.
absolutely satisfied with the progress of the school district, that is not at all the case amongst the majority of the people that we are elected to represent. So I hope that, I understand you'll be our school board president, Carol, please allow for us to have good discussion on issues that relate to the benefit of our children, and please allow the community to continue to participate.
And can we make a,
Of course.
can we make a motion before we, and I'm kidding, but, can we please stop this second and vow me first to work together rather than try to kill each other,
Yes.
all right?
So can I call for the vote, please?
Okay, can I have a vote on the nomination for Carol? Ms. Wagner?
No.
Mr. Siegel?
No.
Mrs. Bluefernet?
Yes.
Mrs. Bose?
Yes.
Mr. Laput?
Yes.
Okay. Now may I have the vote on the nomination for Mr. Siegel? Ms. Wagner?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
No.
Mrs. Bluefernet?
No.
Mrs. Bose?
No.
Mr. Laput?
No.
Congratulations at this time, Mrs. Bluefernet.
Thank you.
Can you please stand to take oath for office?
I, Carol Gleifernick, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of President of the Eldred Central School Board according to the best of my ability.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. So then you don't want this one, you want to tear that one up?
Congratulations, Mrs.
Thank you.
Bluefernet. At this time, I'm turning the meeting over to you.
All right, thank you
Carol,
very much.
congratulations.
Thank you.
And I commit to working with you in a productive way as the school board
Thank
president.
you, Brian. Thank you very much for that. Okay, so I guess we move ahead with the agenda now. Is that correct? Okay. So 105, approval to appoint a vice president to the Board of Education.
I nominate Amador.
We'll nominate Ms. Wagner.
I'll second Amador. Discussion? Prior to the vote? Okay. And we are voting for the
Do we
vice.
have a second on the nomination of Ms. Wagner?
I don't think so.
You can second your own nomination if you wish to.
I do not wish to at this time.
Okay.
Thank you, though.
Okay, voting then. Oh, it goes in the other direction, I see. Okay. Allison, you were voting for Amador as vice president.
No.
Brian?
No.
I will vote yes.
Yes.
Linda? Amador?
Yes.
Motion is passed. Welcome, Amador, to the vice presidential position.
Congratulations, Amador.
Thank you.
And do we do the sign-in now? Do I do the sign-in now?
Yes.
Okay. Want to read that out loud?
I, Amador Laput, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of Vice President of the Eldred Central School Board and according to the best of my ability. Welcome.
Okay, item 106 requires a vote, approval to appoint Lisa. I gotta learn that last name now, don't I? Suburtseff. Lisa Suburtseff as District Clerk of the School Board of the Board of Education, 2017 and 2018, was made on a motion by
I'll make that motion.
and seconded by.
I'll second.
Discussion? Voting? Allison?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
I vote yes. Linda?
Yes.
And Amador?
Yes.
And we are also appointing the Deputy Clerk of the Board of Education for the 2017-2018 school year. And that needs to come up for a motion. The Deputy Clerk of the Board.
In the past, it's been Linda.
I nominate Linda.
I'll second.
Discussion?
I have found, Linda, don't take this personally, it really is not. By the way, I just want to say something up front. I'm not going to be referring to you guys by your first names. I just think that's kind of silly for us as a Board of Education. So I know you've asked me to in the past, but I think that we're a professional organization. We're a Board of Education. It's kind of weird to me that we refer to our superintendent by his nickname and ourselves by our first name. So Mrs. Bose. I've observed that when you are serving as the deputy clerk, that it takes your attention away from your responsibilities as a board member. I think we'd be better served if we don't have a sitting Board of Education member serving in some other capacity during the course of a meeting, particularly when you're charged with taking notes and recording the minutes. So I think we should break from our tradition of having a board member serve in that capacity and move to somebody who's not actively
I haven't
engaged in the
heard that
governance
before,
process. I'm sorry?
So is there another,
I haven't
we have a
heard that.
nomination and a second. Is there another nomination then?
Who would normally serve in the capacity of a deputy clerk in a school district that doesn't have in its board a previous deputy clerk, or previous clerk?
And hasn't served his 36 years as one.
No, again, it's not personal. I have full faith in your response, in your ability to do the job.
Bob, can you answer that question?
No, I can't. We'd have to call around and find out.
I would suggest we table the motion until we can find a deputy clerk who's not also serving full-time in the capacity of an elected representative.
Does tabling require a motion?
Make a motion to table the approval and appointment of a deputy clerk of the Board of Education.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion, further discussion? All in favor of tabling? We'll do that first. Does it need its own number as a motion? It's not on here.
Sure it does. Or some 107A or something.
All right. All right, so in favor of tabling this appointing of the deputy clerk of the Board of Education, Allison?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
I will vote no.
No.
And no.
Okay. So now we will vote for the Linda Bose as the deputy clerk of the Board of Education. And Allison?
No.
Brian?
No.
I will vote yes.
Yes.
And yes.
Okay, Vice President, all board members, Superintendent. So this is now the time for the oath of allegiance. So that's everybody else's papers? And this includes Bob and Lisa, everybody all at once, right? Yeah. Okay, so I hope you have all the same words, because I'm going to ask you to read them at the same time. Okay, go ahead.
I, Ryan Siegler,
Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of Eldred Central School Board member according to the best of my ability.
Thank you all. Sign your papers and pass them over to Lisa, please. Pass it over to us.
Quick trip.
It's not funny. Okay. All right, 108, approval of the Board of Education, that this Board of Education remains a member of the New York State School Boards Association, the Sullivan County School Boards Association, and the Rural School Boards Association for 2017-2018. Made on a motion by?
I'll make that motion.
Seconded?
Second.
Discussion?
I have a few questions on this. I feel like I'm dominating the conversation. Does anybody have any questions on this motion?
I think they're all good organizations that support us. Rural schools less effectively for us, I think, in the last years. I'm not sure we want to take our membership out of there. I'd have to hear a good reason
No,
why.
I'm not suggesting that at all.
Okay, but certainly for the State School Boards Association and the Sullivan County School Boards
And
Association.
I vow for rural schools.
Yeah, do you?
Vouch, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Have you attended a lot of Rural School Board Association events, Mrs. Bose? Or participated in any of their journal articles or their emails or?
What's your
No.
point?
I guess the point I have is that I've attended a school board association thing. It was quite embarrassing to me, actually, recently that Mrs. Lombardi was honored as the Educator of the Year, which was our nomination, and the building was dominated by school board members. It was incredible to see the level of participation from other school districts at a Sullivan County School Board Association event. And it was also dominated by our faculty and staff who were there in full support of Mrs. Lombardi. And I know that we pay some money for the participation in this, but it's peculiar to me that I would be the only school board member there, particularly when you guys feel the way that you do. So I guess that I would question the efficacy of our participation in these organizations if none of us participate outside of my own participation.
Well, that's an overstatement, but I appreciate your thoughts. Any
I would
other
also-
comments?
Yes, and I just have it in general terms, and I hope you bear with me because I think this is a very reasonable thing that applies to multiple items on the agenda. We occasionally will approve motions that the public will have no idea of understanding where they fit into our budget or what their cost is. And I suggest that on future agendas, including this one as we discuss it, that when we're approving an item like membership in the school board associations, 3 of them, that we associate the dollar value on the motion so that everybody understands what we're spending for that. Does anybody know what we spend annually for New York State School Board, Sullivan County School Board, and Rural School Board Association?
Not off the top of my
Rural
head.
school boards is like $300 or $400, isn't it?
I can't speak off the top of my head.
Nor can I, so I don't know how we can vote on
Budget
that.
line, and I can get that information for you.
Well, can we get that before we vote? Because I think that it's important when we vote on items that we understand their dollar value, especially when, we have a $17 million budget and we're trying to make sure that the money goes as much as possible towards our children's education. So can we get the dollar value on this motion, or are none of you interested in that?
Well, can I just vouch for New York State school boards? Because our policies come from there, and they have, I think, twice gone over them for us.
I'm not
Back.
disputing the value of New York State
What
School
they
Board
do.
Association. What I want to know is what does it cost?
No, I know,
because
but
we're
I'm
approving
just-
it.
Okay, but I thought before you had said something, okay.
No, that was last year. But then you guys all decided we value their service, so I've tried to participate in every possible opportunity with NYSBA, including being published in their journal and attending their convention and multiple workshops around the state. But what I'm saying is that if we're going to spend money on it, that on our motion, we should indicate the dollar value that we're actually approving, so that our public knows, and that we all know too before we vote.
It is in the budget at the beginning of each fiscal year. When it's approved, it's when the budget is approved, that amount is approved.
Can we agree to include that in our agenda items going forward, the dollar value, or would you ask for me to reference the budget and bring that to your attention under discussion each time?
I already made a note of that for going.
That will be going forward.
Yeah.
Does the board agree that that's important to have the dollar value attached to our motions?
That's fine.
Thank you. Okay, I'm ready to vote. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Allison?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
I vote yes. Linda?
Yes.
Amador?
Yes.
voting delegate for the Board of Education for the New York State School Boards Association for 2017-2018. We need a voting delegate. Have we had one in the past?
I did it 2 years ago.
Yeah, we've always appointed someone.
Do we have a volunteer from this board to be the voting delegate at the New York State School Boards Association? I believe it takes place in Lake Placid this year, and I believe it is
It's October
12th, 11th, 13th, yeah. They're going to celebrate my birthday on the main floor.
Are you going?
Yes, I'm going.
right.
I'm going to the school board. Yes, so I
Is
can.
anyone else planning on going?
I am contemplating it. I have to look. I was just telling Dr. DeFore I have another thing going on in October, so as long as they don't have a conflict, I will more than likely be going.
I would be very interested in going. I'm not going to ask the school district to pay for it this time. And the only reason I wouldn't attend is if I had some kind of a personal or work conflict, but I was talked into it by fellow school board members at the most recent NYSBA convention, and mostly because there's a professor from the University of Kansas who's been advocating a lot of the positions that Mrs. Bowes and I have been talking about over the past couple of years, and I think it'd be beneficial. But I would ask the board, last time I attended the convention in New York City was 2 years ago, and I was there for 3 days at great expense to the district. And I came back and I prepared a multi-page report that I spent probably 25 minutes delivering to you guys, and you seemed totally disinterested in it. So if we shouldn't send anybody to
insulting.
I'm sorry?
That's very insulting.
But it
that
didn't-
you
you
would
didn't have any-
presume a disinterest on my
Yeah,
part.
there was no action on any of the items that I presented.
I was there, remember?
No, you were there. We had a glass of wine and all, but when I came back and I talked about what I observed that would benefit our district, you guys weren't interested. So I would say that we shouldn't spend our time and money if it's going to result in nothing beneficial to the district.
I'm gonna, for on now and all of your future comments, object to your qualifications of disinterest or non-participation.
Oh, I'm very interested. I'm very interested.
Of other people. You can speak for yourself all you want. But
Oh, yes, okay,
I
that's a fair,
object.
that's a fair
I
point.
object.
I shouldn't question anybody's motives or
Thank
misunderstanding.
you.
Yeah, absolutely, Carol, that's reasonable. That's what I meant to say. What I meant to say is that when I came back and I spent 25 minutes delivering the report, there was no discussion. And there's been no follow-up discussion. And it's been kind of like that with a lot of things, like the visioning workshops and all that. It just seems like as much as people are certainly interested in the community, and I try to advocate, I'm only one person. I can't make you guys do anything. So I'm just saying that if I'm going to spend 3 days of my family time at a convention, I prepare a report and spend a lot of time on it, and I deliver it to you guys, that you're interested. If you're not, just tell me now and I won't go.
We should always have someone at the convention, because we don't know what is new and is going to change in New York education and other ideas that people have.
I have played both roles in the past, and I would happily do that again. BOCES pays for me anyway. It saves our district quite a bit of money, and I am going anyway, so.
And if you come back with ideas, Brian, you're a full board member.
Well, Mr. Laput, with respect, I came back with a complete report on one of the vendors that was interested in working with our school district on solar projects. And we discussed it one time. You actually took the lead on it, but it has gone nowhere. And as a board, we've kind of accepted the idea that it's
In
not.
under old business, then I believe that you should bring up something about solar power to find out what has gone forward. Just because it hasn't been mentioned out loud in this room, in your presence, does not mean things have not moved forward.
Okay.
Okay,
Sure.
so bring it up under old business if you
I
like.
would say that since Carol's certainly going to, Mrs. Liebernick's certainly going to be there, we should make her the primary voting delegate, and then I would volunteer on motion 1.1 to be the alternate delegate. I would advise you if I don't plan to attend.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? So we're voting on 109 and 110 for me to be the voting delegate and for Brian to be the alternate delegate for the School Boards Association. Allison?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Do we have, wait a minute, do we have first and seconds on that?
Say it again?
I'm confused.
We're voting on 109.
Do we have first and seconds on them?
I made the motion.
I second it.
On
Okay.
both? Okay,
On both.
I'm voting yes.
yes.
And yes.
111, approval for a representative of the board to attend the annual New York State School Boards Convention in Lake Placid in October of 2017. That is,
I'll make that motion.
okay, who?
I'll second. Oh, that would be for you.
Yeah, that's what I thought, okay. Discussion? All in favor? Allison?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
I vote yes. Linda?
Yes.
And yes.
Approval to appoint Carol Bleefernick as the district representative to the Sullivan County School Board's Executive Committee for the 2017-2018 school year.
You're a glutton for
I'll make that motion.
I know, huh? Did I hear a motion?
I'll make it.
Okay.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Voting? Allison?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
I'll vote yes.
Yes.
And yes.
We're up to board reports. Elementary principal, do we have something from Ms. Keegan in her absence?
She provided you something
Yes,
in your packet.
I did get that, okay.
And pretty much it was a conclusion for her end of the school year.
There are a lot
There
of
are field
dates on
trips
here as
and
well, yeah.
Activities that were occurring at the elementary school.
Mrs. Keegan's father was very sick, that's why she couldn't be here this evening.
Who says it is, or?
Her father.
Mrs. Keegan's father.
Okay, so there are a number of field trips here, but we all have the same list, is that right? So unless we need to read it out loud for some reason, there are a great number of field trips, kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th, to quite a few different places. I had the benefit of hearing about the Koinonia trip in a rainy day that they had, and still had a wonderful, wonderful time. A little wet, but very happy is my understanding from the Koinonia day. Okay, so field day will be June 15th, June 15th. Band recruitment night for upcoming 5th graders was June 14th. We had,
Excuse me.
yeah, band
That's
recruitment
my
night.
question. I mean, obviously we do, but recruit kids for band?
Well, because they might not know that as upcoming 5th graders that they can join, so maybe they're spoken to
Are any
about
turned
it.
down? And I'm not one of these people like England just passed this
No,
whole
it's just-
thing. Thank you.
I think
Okay.
that they're just told, like,
Okay.
it's like taking kids to BOCES to show
That's
them the
fine.
programs, so they know what they're saying yes to. Pre-K, kindergarten, and screening was June 19th. We had academic recognition June 20th. 6th grade graduation June 21st. Lumberland Summer Program is taking place Tuesdays and Thursdays in July. I imagine that's at Mackenzie. Is that right?
Yes. There's also the Highland Summer Program here in this
Here,
building as
the
well.
Highland Summer Program, okay. And then there was an ice cream party and dance party, June 15th. That's the report from Virginia Keegan. Any further questions? Okay. Mr. Krebs?
Okay, first off, I want to thank Ms. Guerin. She had stood in for me during graduation. I was attending my son's graduation
Congratulations
that
to you.
same day,
Yes.
so at the same time. So thank her for everything that she did and all the other staff members and students and parents that assisted with the graduation.
Which went very, very, can I say that?
Yes, you can.
I'm interrupting a lot, sorry. But graduation, I don't know, was just especially nice this year, and the speeches were appropriate and nice. I hate that word, but anyway, Charlie Cook was your guest, and it was just, job well done.
And for Ms. Guerin as well, thank you.
Also, I provided you a list of our Eldred Region's results and AP results, and what I did is I highlighted it in green, the areas that had gone up from the previous year. So you could see that, and each year I provided, so I went back to 2014, and I do have those numbers for each of the years, but I presented to you. Also, as of today, I just got the AP results, so I was not able to put them all in the board report, but those were our numbers of students that took all of the AP exams. So we had 4 exams, AP Physics, Psychology, US History, and Music Theory. So those were the exams that we had provided this year to our students. And if you'd like, in July, I can present results based on our participation and how they fared in those exams.
I always like to hear the results, so yes, I would like that.
We have summer school enrollments this year. We have 17 students enrolled in summer school classes. 13 of our students are participating in driver's education this year, and 36 students will be taking Regents-only exams at in August also. So those are our summer school numbers. They participate in summer school at Liberty, in the summer school program at Liberty. And the driver's ed program is out of our building right now.
Yes.
So the kids are
Through the
coming in for
BOCES.
driver ed through
Yes.
BOCES.
Question, please, Mr. Krebs. The 36 Regents-only tests, kids that are just sitting for the Regents.
Yes.
Do they get any help from us in August? Do they come in for
There's a variety of reasons
remediation?
why kids are taking those exams or not
Okay.
taking the exam. Some are taking it for mastery.
Yes.
Some have passed classes that they might not need the exam for and
Okay.
did not take it in June for a variety of reasons. A couple of
Yes.
kids were not here for health reasons, and some are trying to pass it and could not attend summer school, and some are attending summer school. So that number of 17 also includes the kids that would be in the summer school class with the Regents exam.
So there is help available to anybody who needs more to get through the August. Otherwise, take it in June, take it in August doesn't really make much difference if you're not getting any.
It depends
Anything.
on the student.
But I see what you
and
mean.
how the parents have reacted to what options there were available for them.
But the options are made available, and they're well aware of that.
Yes.
Excellent, thank you. Sorry, keep going.
And also, I did write out the number of diplomas. I thought it was really important about the large number of students that were graduating. We had 17 students graduate with a Regents diploma. 3 graduated with a Regents with honors. We had 14 of those students graduating with an advanced designation. 1 with a CTE endorsement. 1 student had a local diploma, and 1 had a local diploma with a CTE endorsement.
Mr. Krebs, I'm sorry, after the 17 Regents and the 3 Regents with honors, what was the next item?
14 had advanced designation. 1 was with a CTE endorsement through Career and Tech, and we had 1 local.
Thank you.
So a total of 37?
There were 37.
Okay, and out of how many in the graduating class?
That depends.
On?
There was 36 were of those that were in the graduating class. There was 50 that were in our cohort.
So there were 50 that were
In our cohort,
in the cohort, and only 37.
36.
36.
Of the cohort completed the requirements in June.
And is there a reason as to why there were so few out of the cohort? I don't want to say few, I don't want to take away from the significance of those that completed, but 36 out of 50, what's going on?
There's 14 different reasons,
Okay, understood.
Well, God bless them.
so.
That's
Some take a 5-year track, some need a 5-year track, some
I
take a
can go
juice.
through as much, yes, we have a number of different reasons for the 14.
And is that a significantly higher number that did not graduate this year versus last year?
I'm not exactly sure of the number last year that we had.
Okay, does anyone know the numbers from last
No.
year?
I had a
I
different
think that we
number.
should have that, should have some sort of a target. So let's say that we have a school with less than 600 kids enrolled. And we have a high school with, what, around 300? We have a $17 million budget,
Less than 300.
less than 300, so we have less than 300. Because when I suggested that to Dr. Ford, he corrected me and said that we had more than 300. So we're less than 300 in the high school.
And 7 through 12, I believe we're 260 something. I can't be specific,
That
but
doesn't include the students that are out in
that
the programs.
included all
though.
of them.
It would include all of them?
Yeah, well, I got a
Okay.
number that I provided, it was less than 300.
Okay.
So I just,
I can't speak on that. If you're asking for specifics, I can get back to you.
No,
with
general
that number.
terms, in general
Okay,
terms.
Less than 300.
I feel very badly about the idea that we would have those 14 children and not be able to account for them in a broad sense. Okay, I understand that there are individual circumstances, but that's a 73% graduation rate. And I would say that in a small school like ours with less than 300 kids, with the amount of resources that we have available to us, that we spend and that we expect to be spent, that we should never have a graduation rate like 73%. So I would say that there must be some overarching broad explanation for why we've allowed for that many children to fall through the cracks, because what the statistics show us,
Brian, they
What-
didn't fall through the cracks.
what the statistics
please.
show us
I
is
want
that
you
there are,
to
okay,
suggest, you're saying they fell through the cracks, they did not.
but how do you get to graduation year and have that significant of a number in a small district like ours with the resources that we have? That's the question I have.
It does not mean that they did not get any type of, we have a number of kids that got GEDs, we have a number of kids that were on a 5-year track, not being able to complete in 4 years. We have special ed students that were in that cohort that have not completed their requirements. And of those students, we did have a couple of students that, because of board policy, were not able to double up classes until their senior year. And so therefore, Regents exams withheld them from graduation. So when you're a senior having to take US history for the first time and pass the Regents, having whatever reasons that come up, we've had a number of those students that are cohorts that were not Eldred students that came to us throughout the period of time. So to say that kids fell through the cracks, I want to correct you, they did not. We know each one of the students and how they got. We have a number of students that also took another path where they got a GED for a variety of reasons. So that cohort...
Of those 14 individuals?
Yes, of those 14 individuals, some already have received GEDs. So
How many received GEDs?
so far?
Yeah.
2.
2.
I also have something to add to this. And out in Eldred and in public, when I've been asked about the graduation rate, I've also been able to explain something. The state, and for that matter, the federal government, used to be extremely flexible in identifying graduates through different means. That has, those windows, those doors, those hallways have closed because of Common Core, because of the things that most of us have some issue with. I have different issues than you do, but so now the way that you graduate is a narrow hallway. And there used to be a 55 passing, for example, on some regions for special ed kids or kids that needed it, kids with special needs of different sorts. There used to be ways to take a test that was less stressful, less demanding, and still graduate high school with a local diploma. There are no more local diplomas. I mean, I think you said we had one, but that was, I'm sure, not a 4-year graduate, right? As somebody who's been around working to get that local. Because there are no more, according to the state, allowed to have local diplomas. There are no other ways out besides the GED and the 5 regions. Is that a fair statement?
There's other pathways that they can use, but some of those pathways were not being able to be met with some of those students.
Okay, but the fact is there are not as many pathways and we are not as flexible as a school. We are not able anymore to work with kids through and around and to the gate.
That's fair.
So that
But
has affected.
are we unequally or inequitably disadvantaged compared to other school districts? Because
No.
in New York State, we all have the same rules, and I still maintain that in a small district like us, like Eldred, where we expect excellence, that 73% is just significantly suboptimal performance, even if we are handicapped in the way that other schools are. So I would say that in Sullivan County, are we unique in having this many kids that have not been able to graduate? That's 14 out of 50. That's a big number, right? Is that unique to Eldred, or is that a Sullivan County problem in general? Or a
I
New York
wouldn't
State
even
problem?
consider it a problem in a small school, because I know that we go back and forth between one year and the next. One year we have 92%.
Have we ever had
the next-
73%, Mr. Krebs? No.
We've been at 75%.
We are 6 percentage points away from federal intervention. That's where we are right now. When you drop below 67%, you get all kinds of new rules and stuff. So I'm just saying that, if this is a broad problem, then we don't need to have the discussion, except to the extent that we maybe partner with other school districts and figure out how to benefit our children. But 73%, I think, is going to be uniquely pathetic in relative to schools that are like us. Small schools with lots and lots and lots of money.
Thank you, Brian.
I mean, do we have a reason? I mean, so with this amount of investment, do I need to break it down? Let's break it down. This is the amount of investment we have. We have a school with less than 300 kids, okay? In our school, we have 4 full-time administrators/guidance counselors that are basically directly responsible for the minimum expectation of getting kids to complete our academic program. We have a superintendent at $146,000. We have a high school principal at $128,000. We have 2 guidance counselors at $155,000. We're spending $429,000 on administrators in the school with less than 300 children, and we have a 73% graduation rate. I think it is on the board. I'm surprised nobody else has questions. I think it's the board's prerogative to demand an answer as to how this came to be.
I believe that Mr. Krebs answered that there are 14 different reasons and that Eldred is, you didn't say it this way, but I will say it this way. Eldred is well known for cementing every possible crack so that each child is followed, addressed, their parents are worked with, everything that we can do, we do. That does not mean that every child will graduate on time or with a Regents diploma, but it is not for lack of trying. And the fact that Eldred has always identified and followed and supported every student who needs support, that cannot be argued, and that has been done. I don't think you can ask any more of any school than to follow every child, to keep up with every
That's all I'm
child.
asking. That's all I'm asking.
And that's what we do.
And didn't somebody say that you had worked all summer with these kids?
We had, because of this conversation, this is for your eyes, I documented each student, listed them A through, so you can see what we actually did with each one of the students and where they ended up this year.
Thank you.
So that you have fact instead of fiction, that you can
Wow.
talk to your constituents about.
Thank you, Mr. Krebs.
And it lists out each one of the interventions, the reasons why, and the expectations and the things that we attempted to do to have them graduate on time, and the reasons why they didn't.
Yes.
May I ask,
Thank
Mrs.
you.
Liefernick, that the gratitude that you just expressed to Mr. Krebs was rapid. You just had been handed the document. What are you thanking him for?
Because this is exactly what I was saying, how much work.
You read this?
I scanned this, I know exactly what this means.
When did you scan this? We just got.
I just scanned it now.
You are an amazing speed reader. This is 4 pages of.
No, I did not read 4 pages. I scanned context. I scanned,
You are immediately satisfied with the answer that we get from the
Yes.
administration. I think that's
The
clear. Okay,
first
so
two alone, look at them. That's how far I got.
immediately satisfied with any answer that you get from the administration.
I am satisfied with this answer because this is what
You
I
didn't
know
read this
Eldred does.
answer.
This is what I know Eldred does. This kind of contact,
You
this
knew this.
kind of work with students.
This is like, it's 4 pages.
This is what we do every year, is it not, Mr. Krebs? This is what we do every year with students that need our
This is what
support.
we do every year with students.
I did not read this. I know what Eldred does.
But your gratitude.
I'm very
is
satisfied. I'm
amazingly
very satisfied.
rapid.
I'm very satisfied.
I'm pleased.
I'm sad for those students.
dissatisfied. I am too, and I apologize to them and their families. We need to do better in Eldred. This is embarrassing. I mean, it's a human tragedy to allow for 14 children to not graduate high school. Do you guys know what it means to not graduate on time from high school?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay? I do, because I just spent the past 2 weeks reading the National Labor Review Board and the CDC documentation on premature deaths, on the amount of cost to society, on the immensely deep hole that these children have been dug because they didn't graduate high school on time. So are you guys aware of that?
What would you like us to do differently?
I would like for us to hold the administration more accountable than getting a document that's 5 pages long, looking at it, immediately being satisfied and moving on.
I'm looking at the first two and I'm very pleased. I mean, what more can we do?
You read the first 2 already, Linda? That's
First two?
So we've been talking for about, 3 minutes or so. Carol immediately, within 10 seconds of getting this document,
She
was satisfied.
didn't. I don't even think she turned the page.
Here's what I did. I scanned the context. I did not scan the reasons, and I don't need to read A student, B student,
Nor do I.
C student. Okay. So I didn't scan the reasons. What I scanned immediately is what did we do about the reasons? What did we do about this?
I'm not going to go on. I don't know how you could.
5-year
possibly-
plan. That's all I had to say. Emails, home, phone calls, registered economics, okay? Meeting with parents, teachers to discuss, counselor phone contact regularly.
My
That's all
concern-
I had to say.
Sorry to interrupt, Mrs. Liefernick. My concern is, having been a graduate of this school, we have always given major praise to our teachers and our faculty for a stellar, exemplary job. My concern from hearing these numbers is that truly is an embarrassment. And my concern is, yes, thank you for the work that was done, but that was not effective. So going forward, what are we going to do to change this so that it will become effective? So that if we're in a situation where there's another 14 students that are in this type of a predicament, what are you going to do differently rather than this? Because this was ineffective this time. That is my concern.
It's not ineffective.
But you know, we didn't have Common Core when we were in high school either.
I'm not arguing the semantics of what was being
But that's
taught at that
got a lot to
time.
do with it, doesn't it? I
Okay,
mean,
let me ask a question. If we were going to improve something, what could we improve?
Exactly.
As a board, immediately get rid of we can't double up kids until their senior year.
But why would we have to address a need like this in a student's senior year? So we've spent.
I'm not
Mr.
gonna
Krebs,
give you you asked for an answer.
And I appreciate
of
that
what you can do
answer,
as a
and-
board.
What answer?
Me too.
That's
The
that's gonna be
board-
in the minutes, so we can keep track of that request. Here's my question. When I said, what can we do? I did not mean just what can the board do right now, but is there something more that the school and your teachers could do that we can help you do? Is there something more or something different? Because I know it's not just senior year. I know these kids didn't show up in September and you went, oh my goodness, he might not graduate. You've known this since he came to the school in 7th grade, right? Or she? Because I was part of the school and I worked in the school for 5 years. I know about what the high school was and I know how we cement those cracks and don't let kids fall through. To the point where we go home with kids. We have them come to our homes. We do incredible amount of work with kids. Yes, we lose some. Some quit. Some literally leave us. And we pursue and we follow up and we call and we can't get them back.
Carol, as a board member, do you know that with certainty? Because you are so
Yes.
certain in what you were saying.
Yes,
You're
I
so
know that with certainty.
How?
I think Mrs. Bleefnick was onto something with, sorry to stop that, but I think you were onto something. Like, what can we do, not just as at the board level, but what can we do at the entire district? What can we do? Because you're right, you don't know at the senior year that suddenly the student's failing. It has been projected for quite some time. So what can we do to assist you to ensure that these type of numbers do not happen again?
I think you can look at some of the reasons and options that went in there, and maybe you can formulate some responses to those and come back or email and say, here's some things that I pulled out of there. So I have my own ideas. I have some things that, we've put in place already, looking at, because I know it was out in the community. People were talking, numbers, but they didn't know a of these students that we were talking about from the cohort were kids that weren't even, they didn't even know were in the cohort. So a student becomes in a cohort the exact time when they start in September of their 9th grade year.
Okay.
So whether or not they start here with us at Eldred or they started somewhere else, they're in the cohort. And even if they come to us from another school district in a different state, they're still in our cohort, and we're expecting to graduate them in 4 years to get that graduation rate. Now, there's different rates that the state puts out. They do a 5-year graduation rate, and looking at some of these interventions that we've put in place, at least to assist kids that are on the 5-year plan or those that are finishing up in the summer school for their requirements, that number at 73 or whatever it is will go up. So, but it's not part of our 4-year graduation cohort rate. Just like you see, and I graduated 37 this year, 36 were in the cohort. One actually graduated a year later. We also had some of those students that graduated in August that were part of last year's cohort. So those numbers still had gone up. We had some students that had, got a GED and things. So those numbers that you asked for last year, can I be specific? No, I'd have to go back, but I gave you the numbers from this.
Just a couple of things. One, comparing a on-time high school graduation with a GED or even a subsequent timed high school graduation is not a fair comparison. If you look at any of the objective data, guys,
Absolutely. No one's
there is
comparing.
no comparison.
No one's
These
saying
people are
they're
in
equal.
almost as deep a hole as somebody who didn't get the GED.
Absolutely.
So let's not
Absolutely.
make ourselves feel good that after the graduation ceremony, we were able to get some of these kids full. That's not acceptable. Okay, so what we're talking about is on-time high school graduation. Now, I just have a process question, Mr. Krebs. This obviously took a tremendous amount of work, and for that, obviously, we owe you our gratitude. This is a lot of work, okay? And actually, quite honestly, and probably it's kind of ironic, I would say that I probably wouldn't want to read this, because I understand the point that you guys have made about micromanagement of our administration. This isn't our responsibility as a board to dig into individual students and find out what our teachers did or did not do. That's not our job. Our job is to set high-level expectations. Our high-level expectation is that 73% is not really cool, okay? So, but what I'd say is that the preparation of this document is interesting to me, because you obviously took a lot of time doing this. But then when it came to discussion, we were ready to move forward from this agenda item without any board member asking about the details of this document. So how did this even come to be? Did you know that I was going to ask the question?
No.
So then why would you bring this to a board meeting when none of the board members would ask this
A
question?
lot of community
Just,
talk.
yes, there
A
was
lot of
talk, and if it came up at the board meeting, I would present it.
But why didn't it come up in the board meeting? If there was a lot of community talk, why did none of us, except for myself, bring this up?
Maybe we all knew you would.
Come on, are you kidding me?
Oh, I'm not kidding.
Kidding.
That's pretty good, but that, I just, okay. I'm not, again, we're not questioning each
Just
other's.
trying to be a little,
But, I mean, really, this is a lot of work, and it's work that probably should have been done, right? So anyway, these Regents results, does anybody have any questions about this? Because I feel like this came up 2 years ago, and I got killed by a lot of people in the community for not digging into this a little further. So I'm prepared to do it, but I should be concerned about these numbers too. So does anybody want to get into this?
I have a question regarding the numbers that are not in green. Have those numbers stayed the same, or have they gone lower?
Which,
The numbers that are not in green. You
the
said you
numbers
highlighted
that
the
are not
numbers.
in green did not increase, so they decreased.
They
from the
decreased from the
yeah.
previous year.
Or they might be exactly the same, but they were not increases.
Okay.
Does the public have this?
Yes,
How?
it went up on the, it's out on the board
It's on the
agenda.
school
It's on the
webpage.
school
Okay.
I
page.
see it there.
That was sent out.
In the future, if we're going to have a discussion on something like this, which I think that everybody should anticipate that we'd want to talk about the fact that we only have 4 kids, 10% with mastery in algebra, that we prepare copies for the folks that are in the audience, because you guys, everybody's sitting out there probably wondering what the heck we're talking about. But we're going to spend some time on this. So in the future, I'd say that if we're going to have a discussion on something like this, let's have the papers, okay? Algebra, we have 40 kids taking the Algebra Regents June 2017 report, okay? We have 32% who passed it, that's 80%. We have 4 kids, 10% mastered. And we have that highlighted as green, so I take the green as an increase from last year, but is green good? Because 10% is not so good. 4 out of 40 kids mastered algebra. 4 out of 35 kids mastered geometry. 20 out of 45, that's 44% mastered ELA. These numbers are abysmally low. They're all sub F. Do we have any explanation for this? And by the way, if I'm the only one concerned about this level of mastery, let's move on. But I'm concerned about it.
you have something that you would like to ask more about for the next board meeting, please do that. But I don't think anybody is prepared at this point to discuss why there's only this many or that many in this cohort.
I'm not talking about specific numbers. I'm talking about the concept.
Mastery is a level 4.
85% score is
Mastery
mastery.
is a
That's a
4.
B minus. That's maybe a B.
Level-
That's a B.
mas-
85.
85 is a B.
Regents exam.
So we have 10% of our children with a B or less, a B or more. 90% with less than a B. 90% in algebra. It's a pretty basic, important requirement. We basically set up our entire structure of education all the way down to pre-K now with the concept that we're going to prepare kids for college and career. Can you imagine a career or even a college option where you don't have to have mastery in algebra? But we have 10%. So I'm just asking in general terms, not specific numbers, but should the board be concerned that we have 10% mastery in algebra? Because this is now 3 years, and this is the first time we're discussing it. Third time I've seen this report.
Of course we should be concerned, but I don't think we should chop on anybody's head about it.
I'm not chopping anybody's head. I'm
But it's
asking questions.
happening.
Whose head am I
Don't
chopping?
you agree that the course has a lot to do with it, with kids that will never, God forgive me, pass revisions till the cows come home?
So is that a good excuse?
Well, it is part of the problem that we deal with, every school deals with, not Eldred by itself. We get a lot of our kids through. That may not be mastery, but they pass. We get a lot of our kids through.
Well, so we're talking about a graduation rate of 73%, which is obviously not acceptable, right? Can we all agree that 73% is not acceptable?
I would love it to be higher.
Okay. So, but what we haven't talked about is what happens once those kids actually do graduate, right? A lot of schools will actually track these kids through 1 year of college completion, 2 years of college completion, graduation, completion of military service, full-time employment. Do we do that?
Didn't we do that at one point? Didn't we track our graduates through a study or something? We did something.
We had
When I'm back,
a
when I was-
service that we provided information back, and what
Yes.
ended up happening as the years went out, the people that graduated did not get back on the survey. So if we graduated 45, we get 8 responses back the first year, we get 4 responses back the next year, so there
It's the
wasn't
state.
enough data that we could use.
The state also required it there for a while. I don't know if it was with all students or special ed students, but I know there was a lot of tracking that they tried to do, because it is also abysmal what happens when kids go to college and don't complete. And, you know,
Which
it is
that is happening, okay? So, I mean,
Yes, it's all-
I'm around enough in the community to understand that a significant number of last year's graduating class are no longer enrolled in anything meaningful. College, military service, full-time employment, et cetera. And that's not good either. So getting them through, like you just suggested, I'm sure that you didn't mean it that way, getting them through is not the goal. The goal is mastery so that they can be successful at the next level and successful in life.
Absolutely. But getting them through is part of our job. Not all will hit mastery. There is
Well, more than 10% would be good.
There is a classic bell curve. I agree with you. I am not arguing with you about these numbers. I'm simply stating that at this point, this board, if we have faith in our school and our district and our teachers and our guidance counselors, then we know that they are working on this as they always do.
So that's the question. Does this require board intervention, or do we have
No.
full faith that things are going in such a positive direction that we shouldn't take any kind of decisive action?
Well, see, Mr. Krebs just alluded to the fact that he's already got ideas for how to, tackle some of the things that he saw kind of building this year.
Right, but this
So-
isn't new, though. I mean, this is the third year we've seen numbers like this. This is the third report that I've reviewed. I've only been a board member for one day past 2 years.
I would charge you with looking through Sullivan and Orange County alone for these kinds of numbers.
I have, Carol, so I'd like to answer that question. I sense that there's a problem with the length of the meeting. Are we going to have a discussion about this, or is
If
it
it's
not meaningful?
relative, if it is relative.
The length of the meeting is not in itself a problem. The
Is this an
time
important
spent-
topic?
I don't think that there's anything that the board
Let's
is
move
going
on
to do
then.
about it.
Listen, you guys, we're just going to have to continue to do it this way for a little bit longer.
No,
okay?
that's a threat.
It's not a threat.
Do it what way?
Just where we just move forward. I mean,
We'll have
if
to
you don't...
continue this, guys, just for a little longer. Anyway,
Continue.
well, I trust Dr. DeFore. I trust,
Dr. DeFore, do you have a comment on all of this, please?
This year's testing results and graduation results are an anomaly, in my opinion. Our average graduation rate is above the statewide average of 82%.
Wait, I'm sorry, say that again?
Our average graduation rate is above the statewide average, which is 82%.
Not this year, but
Not
usually.
this year. This
Oh,
year is an
okay,
anomaly.
historically. Okay, yes, I'm sorry.
This year was an
Our
anomaly. Mr. Krebs had presented a number of reasons for those anomalies.
No, he said that there were 14 specific reasons, but we didn't get into the details of what they...
You were provided a
A
sheet
document.
from him, a document indicating what the staff did to assist these students. And I will say that our faculty goes to great lengths to work with these students, many of them spending hours upon hours after school, working individually and in group with students.
I've seen that.
But that doesn't guarantee that every one of those students will pass. Unfortunately, some of these students failed by 1 point. What Mr. Krebs indicated about changing that board policy would go a long way to providing assistance, because kids unfortunately will fail a class. But right now, they're not permitted, if they fail a class in 9th grade. So I'll give you an example. They take biology in 9th grade and they fail it. So in 10th grade, they have to retake biology before they can take earth science, because the current board rules don't permit them to double up, and that would be taking biology and earth science together in 10th grade until 12th grade.
Why did we do that? Do you know the
We
justification?
tried to change it a couple of years ago, it was discussed, and it was never changed, and I recommend we go back and reconsider it. Because kids will fail, but they need to be given the opportunity as soon as practical to make up for those
I
failures.
agree.
So that is one thing.
And it's fresh
that
in
the
their
board-
minds when they failed it one year to go right back into it the next year.
But that is one thing that
Right.
board can do.
Okay, if that's something that
Changing that
matters,
policy to provide more opportunity.
Is that something that needs to be looked into further, or is it something that this board is comfortable tonight with, or should we?
Are you comfortable with it?
Well, I first need to get the policy so,
Yeah.
to you all, so you can see exactly which one we're talking about.
And say we get all this done in August, is that time enough for student schedules to be affected?
A policy change will require 2 readings, and I can tell you at first glance, I'm going to have some questions, and significant questions about this policy change. So I think we should treat this the way that we treat any policy change, and do it the right way.
My only concern is that then it would be September and kids would already be back
But
in
that's the
school.
point, is that if
We've
it's
missed
a
whole
policy that
group.
doesn't entirely make sense, that we should have discussed that as a board before we implement it in a rush for September.
We can put it on the agenda for a discussion in August.
Okay, fine. Mr. Krebs, would you like to continue? Is there anything?
That was all I had, was and I will answer, I can't give you specifics on what we're doing, what we're not doing. I can look into some of those
Again,
questions.
I just not to cut you off, but I agree with my board colleagues, although I have disagreed about this particular topic in the past, that this level of detail on what our teachers are doing with individual students is well above what the board should be doing. We are not to be micromanaging or second-guessing our expert
But
professional
you do
educators.
when colleagues or people out in the community come to you and say,
But our role then is
we
to-
only had, and I hear that's a travesty, that's ridiculous, that's not Eldred, and to actually have me have an opportunity to speak on behalf of the school, I have to let you know that each one of those students that did not graduate is an individual, and we treated them as individuals, and there's a variety of reasons why they didn't, and you would be able to see that.
Or actually, they should be directed to go to you, too.
Absolutely.
You or Dr. DeFore.
I got that direction from Dr. DeFore when I started to get questions about the graduation rate. His response was, direct these people to me or Mr. Krebs, which I have done.
Very
And I
good.
think that's the appropriate role for the board, but I do appreciate the time and effort.
Yes.
But I think that our responsibility as a
too.
board, if we're not happy with it, we should raise that with our administrator, not with individual teachers. And we don't
I agree.
question individual teachers' performance, and that's not our role, and that's not what I'm doing.
Absolutely.
And please don't let it be perceived that way, although I'm sure it will, that I have no question about any individual teacher or staff member's commitment to this. I just want better, and I think that at a board level, we ought to hold people accountable for it.
Thank you. I agree. School Visit Administrator, Mrs. Lewis. Mrs. Lewis.
That's okay. So I've been closing out the 2017 fiscal year, and a few purchase orders that need to remain open for additional invoices will be accrued into the 2017-18 year. And it's a very minimal number, and that will appear on the audit. Been working on summer buildings and grounds projects, researching.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Lewis, do we have this report?
Yes, you
Yes.
should.
I don't know what to do.
Do you guys have this report?
It was online, I didn't.
I saw it online. I don't know if we printed it.
Yeah, you print it off.
Would you like me to continue? Or you want me to wait for you to get it?
Go ahead.
So there's some summer buildings and grounds projects that we've been working on, researching bids and vendors, et cetera. At Mackenzie, we're working on the curbs, grinding them down so they're level with the sidewalk, doing some work on the playgrounds and getting them up to par, paving and doing some repair work in the parking lot to the right as you pull in. And at the junior, senior high school, we are working on the basketball courts and the tennis courts and looking into getting some resurfacing there or sealing the cracks. We are also up on the fields, up on the hill with the track and getting the football fields maintained for our upcoming season and implementing a weekly mowing up there so that it is, when the season does start, it's all presentable and ready to go. Work on the concession stand because I'm sure that there will be concessions up there as well, and it's been quite a while since we've used the building, so there is some work that needs to be done. And the garage that's below, we'll be working on that as well. There's not a lot of major projects within the building itself. We have done the maintenance on the building and kept up with it. It's mostly outside work that we're looking at right now. Been doing negotiations with the bus drivers for their contract, and we're hopeful that that will be completed very shortly. Been updating the asset management database for the audit.
I'm sorry, may I ask a question about
Yes.
the bus driver contract? What is the length of that contract?
They are asking for 5 years.
When that contract is executed, it's retroactive, right, to what, July 1st of this year?
It'll run concurrently with the bus lease.
So the bus lease expires at the same time as the contract? I don't, if we have to go into an executive session, please, but can we do a 6-year contract?
No, we're
Why?
not. We can only do 5 years on contracts. But to answer your question, once 1 year has passed, you can extend it.
Thank you.
Okay? So would that answer your question?
Yeah, my concern, as you know,
No, I know what your concern is, but we cannot enter into anything more than a
we can
five-year
extend
contract.
next year.
As long as we're sitting in nothing more than 5 years, yes.
Thank you.
Okay? And that's just an addendum, once we finalize it.
One more thing about the buses, what's the timeline for delivery?
The middle of August, I'm working on the lease financing at the moment, the contracts, our legal counsel has reviewed them. We've sent them back to the lease company for some changes. When they come back with the changes, they'll go back to the legal counsel.
And the bid was closed?
And yes, it was awarded.
And,
It was, I'm sorry?
It was awarded to Mercedes-Benz Daimler.
Daimler Chrysler?
Yes.
whoa,
Okay.
They're the lease financing company. They came in with the lowest interest rate on the lease. It was 2.365, as I recall.
and is there training for the bus drivers on
Oh,
those
yes,
new
there will
buses?
be training, yes. Yes, I've already talked to the trainer. We have an in-house trainer, and our transportation coordinator is a trainer, and all drivers will be trained on the buses prior to school opening.
Okay.
I also have been working on getting all the documents together for the audit that's coming up for 2017, and balancing and closing the grant and aid the grants and aid that we received from the federal government and through the state, the Smart School Bond Act, and ensuring that we spent the right amount of money and that we have the correct documentation in the file should we incur an audit. Rollover budget of 2018. 2018 is open. We have started our procurement process for supplies for the school year, and conducted some research on the value of the accrued time based on last month's resolution to move money not to exceed $150,000 from unemployment reserve to the accrued liability, EDLAR.
One more question. What is the status of our old buses now? They've been sold or being sold, or what's the story?
My plan is to get a bid out on the street next week.
Okay, okay.
And where will that bid be posted?
It will be in the official newspapers of the school district, which are the River Reporter, the Democrat, and it will also be in the Record, and I will be in contact with DCMO BOCES about putting it up on the electronic bid site and circulating it throughout the schools in New York.
And how long will that bid be open for?
I don't want to do a quick turnaround because quick turnaround bids sometimes experience problems. So I want to have at least a 3-week period for them to submit. And once it's submit, it will be open the day that it is due. It's a public opening. And then it will be awarded to the highest bidder, each bus by bus by bus.
And you're going to post the bids next week?
That is my hope, that it will be completed and posted next week.
And we're getting the new buses in the middle of August?
Correct.
Okay. Do we have enough space at the bus
We have
garage?
plenty of space at the bus garage.
We do? Okay.
Anything further?
Nope, that's it.
Mr. DeFore?
Yeah, I have 2 items. First, currently we have 19 students enrolled in pre-K. At this time last year, we had 24. We started the 16-17 school year with 28. We'll be closely monitoring the enrollment numbers to assure that we have enough students to justify 2 pre-K classes. I should have more information available at our next board meeting. And the other item I have is, this is our first year working with EPIC. Anna from EPIC is here this evening. EPIC is Every Person Influences Children. Originally, we budgeted $53,000 in Title I money for this pilot. Due to staffing problems and consistent training on their part during the past year, the final outlay came out to $31,488. After thoroughly analyzing their original goals, total cost projections, and their final outcomes, it's apparent that the pilot was less than successful. The goal of the pilot was to improve family and community engagement. I do not believe that the goal was ultimately realized. This doesn't take away from the hard work that Anna's been doing, but she did start off behind the 8 ball because she came in more than halfway through the school year. Therefore, I do not intend to renew our agreement with Epic, opting instead to continue our efforts to improve family engagement internally by hiring a part-time coordinator using Title I funds. It'll be more cost-effective, and I believe by having total control of the individual as an employee of the district, as opposed to a contract employee, the results will better meet our expectations. And that's all I have.
Dr. Dufour, what's our minimum students for 2 pre-K classes? Do we have a minimum yet?
With a teacher and a teaching assistant, or an aide, we can have 18 students in a room. With a teacher and a teaching assistant or aide, two of them, we can go up to 20. Anything above 20, we'd have to apply for a waiver from the New York State Department of Education.
So we're really between a rock and a hard spot.
19.
We started when we split into 2 full-day sessions 3 years ago with 36 students over 2 classrooms. We went down to 28 at the beginning of last year, and I do have concerns because right now we stand at 19. And currently, there are no packets out. Usually at this time of the year, we have packets out that haven't been returned. According to Jen Anderson, the last packet, the 19th packet, was turned in on Wednesday.
Do you have any guesses as to why?
No clue. We've done the same thing we have every year. We've mailed postcards out to all of the families. We put it on the website. We put it out in the local papers that we have an open registration. But each year the numbers have been dwindling.
Mr. Liefernick, I think that's a very good question, and I would encourage each of you to speak with families of pre-K age children to find out why.
Okay, thank you.
This part-time coordinator that we may bring in to utilizing Title I funds to replace the EPIC program, is that something we'll be discussing in the future?
Yeah, if we go ahead with a recommendation, we'll come back to the board. You can discuss it now if you'd like.
No, that's fine. We can wait.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure that we'd have discussion as a board.
But we should thank Anna for giving it the old college try.
Yes, thank you.
Anything else, Mr. DeVore?
No, that's all I have.
Okay, I don't have a report, being
Oh, well,
new. Shucks. So we will go straight to public comment based on the consent agenda alone, which is items 4.01 through 7.12. Public comment, please. Yes, Mr. Clark.
Clark, Town Lumberland. Basically, I want to talk about 6.32, tonight's agenda. But before I do that, I have something to talk about, and I don't think it's necessarily appropriate to talk about it now, but I think it fits in to talk about it right now. The board on their agenda has a place for communications. Tonight's agenda has one communication list of the Town of Lumberland. I know for a fact that on June 15th, I sent an email to the Board of Education through the board clerk. Is that not the proper procedure? And does the email not count as much of a communication as a letter that's printed on paper? And is my email the only one that's missing? And I don't know for a fact that the board saw my communication. There's never been a response except from the superintendent. I'm satisfied with the superintendent. He acknowledged what the problem was. I don't need to talk about it any further, but I think you need to make sure that the people in the audience know how they can communicate with you. I don't like to communicate with individual board members because I think that the entire board needs to hear what I say at the same time, and they can all deal with it. So that's what I prefer to do. I think maybe you need to tweak your policy on this communication a little better. Okay, so now on Mrs. Liefernick, may I approach the desk? Given the board copy here, I want to speak about the hiring of the school board attorneys on 6.32. First of all, my interest was piqued when I saw that the
2015, 2016. You only have the one, you mean? Should I pass it around?
just one for you.
Okay.
You're the verification officer tonight. So I've given you three agendas, one from the year 2010, one from the year 2015, and one from the year 2016. They all have to do with hiring the same board attorneys. In 2010, the attorneys Hogan, Sarzinski, Lynch, DeWind, and Gregory were hired for $8,100, the first 57 hours of legal services, and then $165 per hour for any hour after that. Then we
It
go
says,
back-
I'm sorry, it says a yearly retainer of 8,100.
Right, the yearly retainer.
Oh, I see, and then the extra hours have a cost to them. That's
Right.
2010. Okay, I see.
So we're going to end up paying $8,100 regardless. If we go over that, we have to pay additional.
Yes.
Then we go to 2015. So that's 6 years. I see approval of the same attorneys with a yearly retainer of $8,100. So we left that other language out. Now we go to 2016, and I'm pretty sure I was at the reorganization meeting, but I didn't hear any discussion. 2016, yearly retainer of $22,000, almost a 200% increase. So now my argument is based on the fact that I don't know why we have to pay that much money and it jumps so much in 1 year. Second of all, I'm hearing that there's going to be change at Eldred, and there's going to be change in the board. There hasn't been any change on the lawyers for almost 8 years now. I think it's a good idea to change your lawyers every once in a while, change your accounting firm every once in a while. The idea that a new broom sweeps clean. So what I'm asking the board to do, since you have a new board, and apparently it's split right now, which I hate to see, go out and interview for school district attorneys that you have the confidence in are going to be able to handle the changes that come in the future. I personally negotiated teachers' contracts for 10 years here at Eldred back in the 90s. I believe, and it's pretty evident, that the board is not into the negotiation process. They don't know the things that are going on in the contracts, and I believe they need to. So I think you need to go out and look for attorneys that are comfortable with aiding you in negotiating, and that you feel comfortable in making the changes that Eldred needs to make. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to speak to that, please.
Yes.
22,000 is not the retainer. That is unfortunately an incorrect figure that has been carried over on the agenda.
Okay.
I do believe the retainer is 8,100, and then it is an hourly rate after that. I do not have the figures off the top of my head. I also have plans to RFP for legal counsel for the district, because I too agree that competitive solicitation is what is best. So it is not something that I could do before this agenda was created, because I just did not have the time. But it is on my list to be done by the end of the year, so that we can appoint attorneys.
Thank you. So then we should change the wording of 6.32.
Should remove the.
You should remove it, and then
if
we
go on
can,
the August agenda.
and we will correct it for the.
Okay, so we don't have to do that tonight then.
On the August agenda, can we vote on submitting an RFP and not renew this law firm? Because I think that's a legitimate point. This has been many, many years, and it really is
You really cannot be without legal counsel. You really need to have legal counsel. Because if you do not have someone contracted, you are going to pay market value, and that is going, if something happens, it could be astronomically, and it's not prudent.
So Ruth,
I don't advise that.
could you read this retainer more closely and find out what it would take to cancel? If we have to do it for just August or just August, September, would you find out if there's penalties, or if we can
I will
cancel a
read through
retainer
this,
or...
see what the cancellation
Thank you.
policy is.
Thank
And
you.
I will tell you, it will be 90 days before you can appoint a new legal counsel through the RFP process.
That's better than 365, so if you could get the early
Yeah,
termination.
wait. I'm just thinking,
If
but
you should
suppose something
decide.
happens in those,
We're gonna have these
We'll
lawyers.
extend for 90 days.
We're not having lawyers.
It's, no, we will
Okay,
keep them
okay,
under
okay.
contract.
Sorry, I
You
didn't-
cannot be without
Let's
legal
joke on you
counsel.
there.
No, so you'll check what it takes to cancel?
Yes.
So we know in going forward?
Yes. And, you know,
Okay.
I understand that the process of competitive solicitation is important to sharpen people's pencils. That does not necessarily mean you're going to go with a different firm, because they have historical knowledge that is very valuable.
I think
But
that
you're
we-
going to interview whoever submits a proposal. There's a
Right.
committee, and if there's a board member or two that wants to be on the committee, we will develop the committee, we will develop the evaluation criteria, the matrix, the point system, and we will interview them.
ooh, you're not kidding, you know what? When we switched from Donahue, they came up, I couldn't get to my office because they had so many files of what was going on, so that's something to think about.
It'll be something to consider, for
I
sure.
would strongly suggest that the board participates in the interview for the law firm.
Well, that has to be part of the process.
But first, the RFP will go out, as you're saying. Okay.
Is there any additional cost to extending the contract?
Any further public comment?
May I clarify the original point that Mr. Clark made? The communication that he did send to us, I vaguely remember receiving an email communication through you, Lisa, from Mr. Clark. Is that not treated the same way as communications from other entities?
It was my error, I should have put it in.
Should be on here. Okay, so in the
Yes,
future, that
yes,
kind of
yes.
communication would be. So
Yes.
there's that.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Brian. Thank you. Any further public comment? Yes, identify yourself, please.
Charles Peterson. I would just like to congratulate Allison on her civil and campaign that was respectful and effective. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Anna Senni, I'm the ex-ethic coordinator now. I want to first thank the administration. It has been a pleasure working with everyone, the administration, the staff, and the faculty. And I understand you'll be looking for a part-time person, so I hope you consider me for the position, since I've been doing it now since February. I did submit a plan for Mackenzie School for the following year, from September through June. I submitted a plan of what we would be planning to do monthly. If anyone would like to see that, I do have copies of that. I also submitted to the superintendent and Virginia Keegan all the accomplishments that I have accomplished since February, and that too is available to you. So,
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? So we'll proceed with the vote for the consent agenda minus 6.12.
3-2.
6.32?
Yes.
Oops. Thank you.
You need a motion in a second first.
Okay, I need a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Second? Thank you, Linda. Okay, any other further discussion?
Yes. Anybody else have any questions? I have a number of questions.
Go ahead.
On number 4.01, the approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting. Do you guys remember, we had had to be probably 5 minutes. It was a pretty good conversation about the way that we record meeting minutes. And it was along the lines that, because we have the videotape, which records the verbatim of what we say, which could always be referred to by anybody who's interested, there really is no need to attempt to spell it all out.
Yeah.
And that we'd rather summarize, and I believe we actually talked about summarizing this topic. So in other words, Mr. Laput had a question about the budget, period, right? Now we have another set of meeting minutes, and I'm not questioning Lisa directly, but in some cases, it really is verbatim. In some cases, it's way more than a summary. In some cases, it's omitted entirely. So I really think we need to get this straight. Because what ends up happening is that when you try to provide a verbatim account of a conversation and you don't actually provide all the words, you lose some of the context. And we all agreed that we were going to summarize. And this minute is full of really in-depth, deep-level analysis of what was said, and including some verbatim statements. So I would suggest that we reject the minutes as they're written and do them the way that we agreed to do, which is a summary of the topic. And I don't want to go through the whole minutes, but I mean, it's throughout the minutes we have this problem. You guys, have you read the minutes and you know what I'm talking about? So can we, I would just ask that we remove the approval of the minutes from the agenda and reconsider them next month after they've been revised.
You see an issue in accepting the more detailed minutes this month?
In amending them?
No, not
Accepting
amending
them.
them.
He does.
And then
Amending them for
moving
the
forward,
next
change
month's
them.
minutes. Like, are there inconsistencies?
I was hoping we didn't have to go through the whole thing. I mean, there are, but I'd prefer to, you know, I've got other more important things. I mean, I would be okay with approving them with the understanding that they will be amended, but I would rather, I mean, because it is throughout the entire agenda where we, in some cases, spell out conversations verbatim, in some cases inaccurately, that if you would review that versus the videotape, you'd find out that has not accurately recorded the conversation. So
Okay.
I think we'd be better off to start from scratch.
Okay.
And so if it's not clear, and so that's a question, that's an open question. I would like to remove it and revise it.
Do we need a motion on that, or just an agreement of the board?
No, just when we finally vote on it, they remove those specific items.
Remove 401.
Okay.
Are we clear on what we mean by that, summarizing?
Yeah, it's a general statement of,
So, for example, Mr. Clark asked a question about the approval of the legal firm, as a period, right?
yeah, I'm fine with that.
With regards to the communication from the town of Lumberland, I read the letter, and there was a request made to access some of their equipment and their facilities, but they mentioned in the response that they were willing to approve that request in general terms, but there were specific items that they weren't willing to approve. Can we get a little bit of context on that?
That was the safety team at Mackenzie, just working with the town to update our emergency access. They asked for access to a town computer.
Okay.
And the town said they could not because they're all password protected, but they would give them access to the building and access to the Wi-Fi so we could use our own computer.
I remember the reference to the laptop in the letter, thank you. We've discussed this last year. I'm going to bring it up again. I suspect we'll have disagreement, but 6.05 is the approval that the superintendent of schools is authorized to employ personnel on a temporary, per diem, or substitute basis and to set the appropriate wages for such personnel. And I would ask that we impose a time limit on those appointments so that they don't exceed in unreasonable amount of time. We certainly have to empower our superintendent to appoint people when a vacancy arises in between board meetings, but I don't know that there's any good reason to not bring that to the board for approval at the next available board meeting. So I would feel more comfortable if the appointment of temporary, per diem, and substitute personnel is made on a limited time basis, like 30 or 60 days, giving us, as the board, oversight over those decisions.
Well, then after 20 days, they go on step one to begin with, the teachers?
You have to be a little more specific about what you're talking
Yeah.
about. The teacher's contract governs the hiring of teachers. The CSEA governs the hiring of CSEA. This basically is used when we do have emergency or contingent basis. For example, when Mrs. Gordon passed away, I needed to comply with special ed regulations, hire someone to come in and provide those services through the end of the school year. And if Mrs. Gordon had died earlier in the year, that provision would have been for a longer period of time. And in that particular field, it was an independent contractor. So that's what this is used for.
And that's what temporary would mean.
Yeah, so temporary. I
If it
think
was
would
going to be a
benefit us-
permanent, it would come to the board for a permanent, just
Right.
like we do with the OT and the PT contracts, it would come to the board for a permanent appointment.
I just think it would benefit us to define temporary and permanent. Again, my request is to include in this that personnel should be employed on a temporary, per diem, or substitute basis on the sole discretion of our superintendent for a period not to exceed 30 days, or 60 days, if you guys are comfortable with that. That gives the board oversight and approval in the process. And it's not unreasonable, because we certainly would meet, in some cases, once or twice during that period to consider it.
But is that going to interfere with your contract?
It could,
Does that limit?
it would definitely limit my authority.
So when someone is a substitute or a per diem,
That's under the
Then-
teacher's contract.
that's understandable, and there's parameters around that position to begin with. So you're not hiring somebody without our approval.
No,
It's not masquerading as a hire.
no.
Okay.
Temporary emergency, right?
So then I don't have any problem with it. I don't want to limit it.
I would ask then for 6.05 to be removed from the consent agenda so we can vote on that separately. Okay? We don't need to debate it any further. I have nothing else that I can possibly say. So 6.20 is the approval that the superintendent of schools is authorized to certify the payroll for the 2017-2018 school year. I just have a question that's related to this, because I've become aware that there may have been some kind of a policy change made to the timing of paychecks for employees of the district that we haven't discussed. Maybe you can provide some clarity on this, that some of the employees that are used to receiving their paychecks early on in the year might be receiving them a little bit later than they normally have. And the way that it was described to me by the individuals that I spoke with was a policy change. And I looked through the policy manual, and I don't see anything that governs the timing of pay. But was that change made, and should that be something that the board discusses?
Ruth, do you want to explain?
It's not a policy change. It is how we're paid bi-weekly, and it is how the pay periods fell, and part-time employees must complete an entire pay period before their payroll is entered into the system. And because of that lag, it created this year, part-time employees, bus drivers included, because they're part-time employees, their paycheck would be late in September.
But it wouldn't, the delay wouldn't be any more than 2 weeks the way you've described that.
Well, no, because you have to have, unfortunately, you have to have a week to get the timesheets to payroll. They have to enter it.
So it's not a policy change?
It is not a policy change.
It has been interpreted the same way that it always has?
It fell. What has happened in the past is they did an extra payroll. And when you do an extra payroll, you pay for that. You're going to pay for it because you're having CBO do more work.
Okay, so we've decided
and that's
this
why
year
I
to not do
gave-
that extra payroll. The extra payroll is done for the benefit of some
And that's why I gave
employees.
them notice in June so that they could be prepared for that.
Okay, but there's no board policy that
No
governs
board
any of this. Okay, so it's
policy,
outside
no.
of our discretion. I just wanted to ask and make sure that we didn't miss
Yeah.
something, okay?
Correct.
6.28 is the approval of the list of meetings that we're going to conduct as a school board. And I remember that last year when we approved, 2 years ago when we approved this, actually 2 years ago and last year, we had a discussion about the timing of the budget vote, Tuesday, May 15th, 2018, and that it would not be held on the same day as of any significant school event, like a concert or something like that. Has that calendar been finalized?
No.
So are we now at the point where we need to discuss this, or do we discuss that when the calendar is made and reviewed and approved?
Which calendar do you talk about?
The calendar that would define when that band concert is held.
You gave an instruction 2 years ago not to do that.
Okay,
So it doesn't need to be rediscussed.
thank you, okay.
Can we
And
just
these
say
dates were just basically picked from the calendar as being the
second
second
Tuesday,
Thursday.
Thursday, sorry.
We tried to keep the warmer months here. And October, we're moving down to Mackenzie, and then back up in April as it starts to warm up a bit.
I have, on the calendar before you go on, I have two issues. Thursday, August 10th, I cannot be here, and I would ask that we change it to the third Thursday of that month, and then Thursday, October 12th is NISBA. So we will, a few of us, possibly be away. So if we could change that one as well to the third Thursday.
So you want to change August to the 24th?
Yes.
No, the
No,
17th.
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 Hold on, I'm sorry. I apologize, the 17th.
Okay, August 17th then.
And October,
12th is NISBA, so the next week will be better. 19th? Okay. Are we in good shape then? Do you have more, Brian?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead.
6.48 is the approval of a specific individual as a parent member on the Committee on Special Education. And I know that we are, I don't know if we're required, but we're recommended to have a parent. Do we solicit volunteers for that committee? And if so, how public is that solicitation? Is there an opportunity to put that out there a little bit more publicly and see if we can get a little bit more community engagement?
We can always do that. I will let you know that this individual was the only one who actually volunteered to perform the duties of the position. And basically the responsibilities is to be available if a parent requests it.
They don't come to every
The
meeting.
individual's responsibility as a parent member is if a parent wants another parent there at a meeting with them to help them navigate the system, this is the individual that we contact. So my recommendation would be, we can have as many as we want.
You can add them over.
This
and over.
individual is
yeah.
willing to do it, has done it, and is very good at it. I would recommend we appoint them, and we can also continue soliciting, but we've had very little
Okay.
luck with it.
Can parents be added during the year? Do they only
They
have
can
to
be
have
added
it?
at any time.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And a matter of fact, Mrs. Stern was added in the middle of a school year.
I seem to remember that, yeah.
And we met many years without having one because nobody would volunteer. It's a lot of work when they get involved in it.
The good news is it looks like the regular board meeting motions begin at 6.53. We'll vote on those individually, right? That's not part of the consent agenda? 6.53
Right.
and forward? Okay, good. So then I do only have one more thing. Please, guys, I'm begging you to bear with me on this. I know I've been kind of troublesome so far this meeting, but,
Brian, consent goes through 7/12.
oh, okay, so then we've got some more work to do.
Yeah.
I would ask that 6.53 and 6.55 be removed from the consent agenda for further discussion. This is the appointment, the approval of Ruth Lewis and Melissa Muller.
And do you have,
I
is
have-
that just an automatic? I'm not.
That's got to go into executive.
No, this is.
No, not to discuss it. I'm saying, what does it, is it automatic when one board member requests it to remove it?
That's up to, that,
Oh, we can discuss it now.
it's a consideration. If a board member usually requests to have an item removed and voted on separately, it's because they don't want to vote against the entire consent agenda. So it's a consideration for the board member. I'd have to do research whether it requires a separate motion.
Right,
I do
yeah.
not believe it does.
Okay.
So, Brian, you're requesting just to have them voted on separately?
Just voted on separately, that's all.
Okay.
Okay?
So finally, 6.44 and 6.45 and 6.46 are the...
Slow down. I'm sorry.
All right, 6.44, 6.45, and 6.46 are all related to the appointment of district coordinators, district coordinator,
Yes.
high school coordinator, and elementary school coordinator for the Dignity for All Students Act. And actually, I would similarly ask for them to be removed from the consent agenda for separate vote.
Okay, further?
Nothing further.
Anybody else?
I would add 502, Mr. Clark's email, if it was all received.
Yes.
I did not receive it. I was not present then.
What is 502? Oh, that email.
Communications to the
Oh, okay.
board on Paul Clark email.
Lisa, can you send that out again, just to be
I can
sure?
certainly do that.
Thank you. Okay. So I am going to try to say this, but I need somebody who wrote down each number to say them when I ask for them, okay? So we are recommending that actions 4.01 through 7.12 with the exception of
6.44, 6.45, 6.46, 6.53, 6.55. Is that correct, Brian?
And 4.01.
Yeah, 4.01, the minutes, we're gonna just remove and revisit
Well,
next time.
those are for separate vote, what you just listed was for
Right.
separate vote.
Right, but I think what we're doing is
There's a second
we're approving the
amount
consent
removed.
agenda without those items.
Right.
So we need to also remove 4.01, the approval of the minutes from last month, as we discussed.
Okay, fine.
And,
Yes, 6,
Hold on, 6.32.
2, yes.
oh, and 6.05, which is the employment of temporary personnel.
Okay, 6.05, you want voted separately.
Yes, and 6.32, which is the approval of the attorney.
4.01 and 6.32 removed.
Right.
And then the rest of them are voted separate.
Okay, I need a motion.
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
I'll second that.
Allison?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
I'll vote yes. Linda?
Yes.
Amador?
And yes.
All right, so I believe now the form, what we should do now is vote on each individual
So
thing.
you want to vote on 6.05 first?
6.05, which is the school superintendent is authorized to employ personnel.
I'll make a motion
Second?
What are you making a motion to?
to approve
Okay.
6.05.
Okay. Discussion? I'll call for the vote. Allison?
No.
Brian?
No.
I'll vote yes.
Yes.
And yes.
Amador. 6.05. Now what do we have left?
Approval of the lawyer. I'm not-
6.32. 6.32.
Oh, we,
No, 6.32 is being pulled off the agenda.
You're right.
So 6.44.
That's right, because we were going to talk about it in, that's just off.
We're not voting.
that's all.
We're not voting.
6.28, we changed dates, so just
6.28, change dates as amended, yes.
Oh,
Can you
yeah.
make sure that's in there?
Correct. Correct.
August 17th and October
The
19th?
next one is 6.44.
Okay.
And 6.45 and 6.46 can be bundled for a vote if you'd like.
Okay.
That's the approval of the DASA coordinators at all three levels.
4.4, 4.5, 4.6. Okay, so can I have a motion for those three to be bundled together and put
I'll
forward?
make a motion.
I'll second. Discussion?
Yes, I'm going to make this very brief. I just feel that it would benefit the board if we table this pending a more in-depth discussion about what the Dignity for All Students Act is. Because as I've reviewed it, and I've spent a lot of time researching this, other school districts have taken the advice to publicize this very clearly in a way that parents can understand what their rights are under the Dignity for All Students Act, which is really an anti-bullying law that protects children from bullying or harassment by individuals in the school, children, staff members, employees, etc. And I'm not sure that a lot of parents understand it. And if there's a recommendation from the officials on DASA that we publicize this, I think we can do a little bit better. It's hard to find. It's in our policy manual, but it's buried. It's on our website, but it's also buried. And it really kind of doesn't do enough service to it as really not just a bullying thing. Some schools have forms, etc. And I just think that I would suggest that we put this on agenda for discussion on its own merit. What I would also ask is that the folks that we appoint to these positions don't always have to be principals. So by default, we've appointed the superintendent at the district level, the high school principal at the high school level, and the elementary school principal at the elementary level. And it's not necessarily required, and other schools don't do that. But what I will tell you is that in the law states that at least one licensed and/or certified staff member at every school must be thoroughly trained in human relations in the areas of race, color, weight, national origin, ethnic group, religion, religious practice, disability, sexual orientation, gender, and sex. And the staff member should be referred to as the Dignity Act coordinator. So I think that we should, as a board, discuss the appointment of these coordinators on the basis of their qualifications according to that criteria. And this is the last thing I have to say. In the law as well, there is a statement that the creation of a committee, that is a committee of the Board of Education, is suggested, although not required, but I would suggest that we do so. This is an important enough topic, bullying and potential mistreatment of children. So I would ask that we remove the appointment of these coordinators until we can form a committee, have a discussion about this, and make sure that we have the right people in charge of this important responsibility.
So is that a motion?
Yes, I make that as a motion.
Could I
to-
ask,
Yes.
could I please ask Dr. DeFore what your opinion of that is?
I've made my recommendations.
And you and the principals have had training?
We have training every year. We do recurrent training. Our counselors do the training for the staff. This is an administrative procedure. The individual's responsibility is to assure that any reports are properly followed up within the building, and the building principals, in my opinion, are the ones best equipped to handle them. So that's why I've made these
I
recommendations.
have no problem with it.
Let me just expand upon the recommendation for the board to be involved in this. I guess I hear again that we are fully satisfied with the answer that we got from our administration. We obviously haven't discussed this. All I'm asking for is a little bit more in-depth exploration of the topic, but you guys seem to be comfortable right now. So let me just share this. The creation of a committee is voluntary on the part of the Board of Education. If a board chooses to adopt this approach, it is recommended that the committee consist of various constituencies. The board may choose to give this responsibility to an existing district-wide, BOCES-wide, or charter school-wide committee, wellness, safety, or shared decision-making, rather than establishing a new one. The board may also choose to involve Dignity Act coordinators in their school. And it goes on to suggest that there should be outside involvement from committee members and subject matter experts, which I happen to know we have a wealth of in our district, of folks who fully understand disabilities and potential situations of bullying and mistreatment. So again, I think the board should take a more active role in this. If you guys are comfortable with just a blanket approval to our administrators without oversight, then I only have one vote.
But they're trained for it.
And besides that, as Dr. DeFore did point out, it is the job entails a lot of reporting to the government, and it is not necessarily these three people who lead bullying workshops or activities in the schools. It is not up to them alone.
One of the primary responsibilities of a Dignity Act coordinator is to review DASA reports, potential reports of bullying and mistreatment, and to make a judgment or a determination upon those. And I know that there are specific disabilities that occur within our district for which it's hard to believe that we are satisfied as a board that these individuals have specific training in that disability. And I just think that that's important for us to understand better. We need to make sure that the people making those determinations are equipped to do so. And I would feel more comfortable than just having our superintendent tell us that.
I'm comfortable with the role that these three people have to play in the DASA requirements, and I don't think it reflects in any way a lesser treating of bullying at our school. So we can certainly, explore and learn more about this, even perhaps find out if we already have or want to form some sort of a bullying group for searching, but I don't think it has anything to do with these people and this role.
I will save the discussion on DASA as a topic for future board meeting.
Yeah.
But I would still like to vote on this separately, right? These three together.
Okay. So, any other discussion? Can we call for a vote? Allison?
Yes.
Brian?
No.
I will vote yes. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Next. Number?
6.53.
Okay, we're voting on this separately.
I'll make a motion, 6.53.
I'd like to have a little discussion on this if
We
possible.
need a second.
Need a second?
What to do? Can we
We're
do
just,
the public?
it's approval upon the recommendation of the superintendent of the memorandum of agreement for Ruth
With the
Lewis
discussion.
with a salary of $86,500 effective July 1st through June 30th, 2018. There is no increase in this, and we are voting separately. So there's a motion on the floor. We need a second. I will second this. So discussion now.
I know that in the past, BOCES had been providing business services for the Eldred district. And I understand that there were different circumstances related to why that was put in place. At this time, I think that we should be exploring all options on how to reallocate our funds, because obviously they need to go to our students. So my suggestion is that we research possibly sharing the cost of services with BOCES for our business services. I just would like to see an exploration as to what the cost would be. My understanding is that they provide services à la carte, so we could pick and choose the services that we would like. And then they also do a full service option as well. So I think that this might warrant further discussion and just a little exploration on the board's part or the superintendent's part to just see what the cost would be. So if we could possibly save some money and reallocate it back to the students and back to the district.
We already do that, Allison.
Okay.
Would you like to review the list of services that we have from the CBL Plus?
Sullivan County BOCES Central Business Office performs personnel services for $12,000 a year. They maintain HR database, address changes, etc. Enter contract info for correct payroll processing and improved time calculations.
May I interrupt? I'm sorry.
Balances.
I think that some of us may actually need to take a break. Can we do that? Can we take a break?
Yes.
I have to take a break as well. Can we suspend so that we're all participating in the
Okay,
discussion?
fine. 2 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever?
Can we suspend for 5 minutes? Is that okay?
What's the timer?
It's a discussion of the positions.
Yeah, I know.
It's about.
See if she wants to go home.
Do you like to be seated?
I actually do.
It's
If
up
you
to
don't
you.
mind, I really do, because I do.
No. Whatever you would like
Bob, after we approve the consent agenda, could we congratulate our new football coach?
Oh, no, it's okay. I just have to-
Since he's on the consent agenda.
Home now.
Can you do that one after once we approve?
So I have George on standby at home. So I just texted her. I said, "Put that on."
Number?
She's ready.
What's the number?
Is she ready? She's ready.
661.
661. She just said I didn't have to.
664.
Sorry, it's not for you now. It's ditto.
After this, that's not there.
Thank you. So I lost a very good catch. 64.
She does.
Miss Lewis just went to make some copies.
That's my.
All right. In the moments before Ms. Lewis comes back, she's got some copies to make.
Is the camera restarted?
I don't know. Is the camera restarted? Okay. Let me take this moment to present to everybody. I believe that Anthony I'm sorry. Sadasante. Hello, Anthony Sadasante. And welcome as the head football coach for the 17-18 school year.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Should practice that Sadasante.
Yes. Practice that.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Yes, this is helpful. So these are the services that we now currently contract with the CBC. And I can tell you, Allison, too, we can have all the discussion we need to have, but when we first went into the CBC, Linda was very hesitant about it. We were very concerned about...
I'm still not thrilled, but
We were very concerned about, giving over any of our services.
Yeah.
But the CBC has all, and I can tell you from a BOCES perspective as well, the CBC has done a phenomenal job of streamlining and protecting us, if you will, and checks and balances, et cetera. And so I do believe that before you came on, we had come to the conclusion that we were pretty comfortable with where we're at with the CBO and with Ruth Lewis's services.
Okay.
So you can certainly keep asking questions, but I just wanted you to know it's something that we have looked at actually in depth.
Yeah, I fully appreciate that, so thank you.
Okay.
I think I am all for the CBO because of the streamlining and all the positive effects that you've just stated that we've had with it. So I just would like to have the discussion because I wasn't present for that. This is fantastic, so thank you, Ms. Lewis, for bringing this to our attention. I'm visual, so I like to see it. So I do appreciate that. So I guess with this then, if you can clarify what your role is specifically for me, as you've discussed it already further with my fellow board members, but just specifically for me, I suppose then.
So what you have in front of you on the left side of the sheet is what the central business office does and how much they charge us for that. So we pay them $225,000 a year for those items that they do. Personnel, HR payroll, business services, accounts payable, accounts receivable, and purchasing. On the left side of the page is what's done in district. And as you can see, it's pretty substantial, and on the back are the additional duties that I have besides what I collaborate with the CBO on. And the district pays $136,340 for the business office in district to perform these duties.
I guess my question is, have we looked at the CBO to take over the rest of those duties as well? And what the cost comparison would be for them to take over the majority of these duties? Some of them, obviously, supervising food service and supervising buildings and grounds. My understanding was we have supervisors in place for those already.
We have, no one has a supervisory title in any of those departments.
Okay.
The transportation coordinator does do some supervision, but I supervise her and the department. Buildings and grounds does not have anyone in a supervisory position, and neither does food service.
Okay, so without naming names, you're saying we don't have any supervisory roles in any of those positions?
They may act as it, but it is not according to civil service.
So if you take out those, have we looked at the CBO taking over any of these other duties? Because it looks like some of them are duplicating. If we're doing HR and payroll with the CBO, but we're also doing it in-house, same thing with the accounts payable, we're doing
Well, you have to
communication
have
services.
someone in district to forward the paperwork. Someone in district has to do the paperwork and then forward it up. So you
Okay.
still need someone in the business office to do a portion duties in each of those categories.
Well, and you also have to have, when people, when they have questions here, you know, in the building.
But
That was my main concern.
monitoring the budget and preparing the budget is a big part of your job and a big part of the reason why you need to be.
Correct. And the state aid reporting, because if your
Yes.
state aid reporting is
God,
not done
yes.
correctly, you are going to be shortchanged.
So you keep a close eye on that.
I have similar questions. I don't want to get into the specific nitty-gritty. I mean, it does seem like some of these things aren't actually duties, but they take up an entire line. But I'm not going to criticize this in detail. Do we have an organizational structure chart for our district that defines the roles and responsibilities for our
description.
sub-superintendent level administrators?
We have a table of organization,
What is a table of organization?
just delineating who's responsible for what.
So, I've never seen that. Was that published somewhere?
I don't think it's per se published, but there is one.
I guess it's just difficult to approve a position. Actually, it doesn't say on the agenda on 6.53 what Ruth Lewis's position is. It's the district business administrator, right?
I'm a school business administrator
business
is my
administrator.
title.
So which is not, we should probably include that on what we're
Yes.
approving here.
We should.
But I would like to know before we spend $86,500 on an administrative role, specifically what duties are included in that. What I'd also like to see is an organizational chart that shows what Ms. Lewis described, which is that we do have people that we employ to, I always understood, supervise employees in transportation and in food service, which we pay good money to as well. Melissa Muller is on our agenda here for a 2% increase to $69,781. She's the, and we should also include her title in there, coordinator of transportation?
Transportation coordinator.
Transportation coordinator. So she has a staff of employees that work in that department, and we're paying $70,000 for her position. But what you're saying is that you actually supervise that department. So my question is, why do we have this much middle management in a tiny little district like this?
Well, Melissa does create all of the bus routes, and she does do some supervision there as well. I mean, she's there. She supervises and does the evaluations for the bus drivers, the monitors. I supervise the mechanics and Melissa.
So you supervise Melissa and the mechanics. I thought you said earlier that you supervise the transportation
I do
department.
assist her with certain supervisory duties in transportation when she requests.
Ruth has the big picture. Melissa has the specific.
The day-to-day.
Well, there's a difference between
overarching.
supervising the coordinator and supervising the coordinator's direct reports. That's what I'm trying to get at. If the employee should have really one direct supervisor. That's actually part of our school board policy 3240, which defines the line and staff relations, which says that each member of the staff should be informed as to whom he or she is responsible for and what functions, and whenever possible, each member of the staff should be made responsible to only one immediate supervisor for any one function. So again, we're paying a lot of money, and I'm not calling out any individuals, but we're paying for 2 supervisors, it seems, of a department. And I imagine we're doing the same thing with food service, right? So do you supervise the food service staff as well, or
Yes,
does
I do.
Jill Decker do that? Because she's the coordinator for that
I
department.
supervise food
Okay,
service
so-
staff.
And you do custodians?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know that is that customarily part of a school business administrator to supervise
it is.
employees in transportation, food service, and buildings and grounds?
Yes, it is.
That seems like kind of like an assistant superintendent role.
Well, it's close to that, and it's similar to having a principal in the building to take care of everything at that level.
Which we do.
And then having, but none of these are building
Well, we do have the
jobs.
food service employees in buildings.
But your principal is not going to supervise food service.
She's doing non-teaching.
I guess the question is, how much middle management do we have in a district that has less than 600 children, who has a budget of $17 million? It seems like a lot. And and I agree with Ms. Wagner's points, if there's an opportunity for us to outsource this position, this school business administrator, or most of its functions, we can now allocate that money towards the people who directly supervise those departments, and allocate most of it, hopefully, to the education of children.
We would be allocating that money to CBO, to BOCES,
But
to be paying them for those services.
It might be a better deal.
But Brian, and
we have to have a-
how are they gonna know Jim Dorcas, they don't, each department head, she supervises, but they're not gonna know that.
She can't run the
No,
bus
I would
garage.
suggest that the coordinators at that level, food service, buildings and grounds, and
Non-teaching.
and transportation
Non-teaching.
supervisors, coordinators, whoever, they're supervising employees. They run departments, essentially. If they run departments in a tiny district like this is very small. Okay, they should report to the superintendent. He's the CEO of the organization. I don't know that we need to have middle management to this extent.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Any further discussion?
I would, no, yes, fine, one more thing. We do have a board policy, it hasn't been looked at since 1991, but it's 3230, it's organization charts. I think that as a board, I understand you don't want to micromanage, we don't really want to get involved in much of anything, but at the minimum, we should have a good sense of what our organizational structure is, and at least for our administrators and managers, what their job description is. I've never seen it, I doubt that it's published, but 3230 requires the superintendent of schools to maintain an administrative organization chart showing the relationship among the various administrators and staff. There we could point to that and say, well, that's not necessarily true, what you initially said, that the bus drivers report to you. We'd see that on the chart, right? So can we get that, please? Because that's part of our policy.
Is that possible, Bob? Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I'm...
All right, what are we up to here? We passed the dignity for, did we
have to
vote?
vote on 653 and 655.
653.
We had a motion and a second, we're in discussion.
Oh, yes, we were in discussion. So, any further discussion? Let's call it for a vote then.
Well, did you?
Did we have, yeah, we had a,
Did you have a vote on, did we have a vote on the,
You're voting on 653.
well, but they just said we had a motion
We had a motion to approve it and a second.
yes.
To approve
I think
it.
To approve it.
yeah,
Okay.
I seconded it.
Okay.
So now I'm calling for the vote. Allison?
No, because I have further discussion.
Brian?
I'm sorry, do you have a question? We're still in discussion, I believe.
Actually, I called for the vote.
Yeah, they called for the vote.
Oh, are we open to having further discussion?
No.
Okay. That's a lot of money to spend without discussion on the board's part. That's just disappointing, guys. I mean, we can do better than this.
We
I
can
understand it's
certainly
late, I understand.
continue.
We've taken a bio break.
We can certainly continue to look at the way we structure and run the school district, but I
We're
don't think
approving
it should
this for
hold
a
up.
full year. We're approving it for a full year, $86,500.
Sure.
Does not mean that we
Never
don't
gonna
have
get any-
options and actions that we can take.
We will continue this way.
We are a $17 million operation and we need a business.
So are
manager.
we having further discussion?
I'm done with the discussion.
Okay.
So Brian, will you vote?
No.
I will vote yes.
yes?
Yes.
Thank Thank you. Which one now? 5.5? I need a motion?
No, there's no negotiation.
I'll make a motion to approve.
That's a good question.
Second.
Discussion.
Okay. Discussion.
I'm sorry, this is on 6.55, the
Yes.
appointment of Melissa Muller?
Yes.
I have discussion. The 2% increase that's noted here, is that due to the ongoing negotiations that you're having with the transportation department?
She's not part of that.
Okay, so why the 2% increase?
That's my recommendation.
Your
for this year,
recommendation?
Yes.
Okay, and can we please specify what is that Melissa Muller does?
Ruth, you want to itemize what she does, please?
She's transportation coordinator. She coordinates all of the bus runs, after-school runs, extracurricular athletic runs. She
Trains the bus drivers?
Yes, she trains the bus drivers, thank you. She coordinates for any physicals, and if there's a need for any driver to go to Partners in Safety for any reason. She interacts with them on a daily basis, as well as the monitors. She works with pupil personnel services to make sure that if a child needs a monitor on a bus, that there's a monitor on the bus.
In the end, she gets every kid home safely and takes the
Correct.
phone calls.
There you go.
Takes a lot of phone calls from
Yes.
parents, yes.
She
And
stays
changes-
late if children are not, if you
Right.
can't drop children off and they have to come back, she stays late.
We know, we remember
Yeah.
that sternly worded obnoxious letter that we received regarding that topic.
How many employees does she directly
You know, that's not
supervise?
fair.
Well, we discussed that and we agreed that that was an obnoxious letter and we agreed to change it, so it is fair, Mrs. Bose.
It's his opinion.
And how
That was
many,
actually your opinion. We all agreed upon that, but that was long ago, so we can move forward here.
how many employees does she directly oversee?
I believe there's between 15 and 20.
Okay.
Any other further discussion?
So the 2% increase is not a contractual obligation. We have chosen to do that on the basis of a superintendent's recommendation.
Yes.
To $69,781.
Yes.
And I would just ask that we add the title to that motion.
Okay. And the same is true for 653, that we added the title. Okay, I'm calling for the vote. Allison?
No.
Brian?
I would say no.
I'll vote yes.
Yes.
Amador?
Yes.
Do we have anything else to vote on here for the consent agenda or anything related to it?
Brian, that was the last item I had. Correct?
I believe so. Yes. At least according to my notes of this, yeah.
All right, so then we move on to
Old business?
old business. We have the first reading of the charging of school meals, which we approved already, I guess, for that first reading. And so we are on to old business. Do we have any old business?
Do we have any updates on the health insurance? I know that Ms. Lewis had said that the health insurance co-op was looking to get a new administrator in place. And do we have any updates as to how that's going and anything that you'd like to keep us
The
up to date with?
executive director has been terminated, and we have an interim executive director who's a former retired school business official through January 1st, and they will be soliciting for a new executive director, and the entire board of trustees is working very diligently to keep costs down. They will be RFPing various services, consulting services, and health management administrators. We have a new prescription plan, which was a savings, and we've added some other benefits, telemedicine. So we're trying to promote that, which would be a savings. And there was another, for imaging, there's another location that if you go to this specific location, they were working on a contract for that, so there would be no cost to the member.
Okay, and how has Middletown leaving the co-op turned out to have an effect?
That's not been determined yet.
That's not been determined yet. Okay, when will that be determined?
Well, they're not scheduled to leave until September, so not until after their, and then there's a time period where some of their claims will still be paid because they will still have claims outstanding. So I would say the earliest we would know would be December. We do know that they have some high-cost cases that are leaving, that are predicted to benefit the plan.
As I recall, we received a significant increase in revenue from our sources, state aid, local tax, and much of that was gobbled up by increases in premiums that were paid to this health plan. Do we anticipate that next year, when we receive revenue, that we're going to ship this off to this health plan, or are you satisfied that they've made enough changes where we can actually keep that money for our children next year?
I can't predict that. This is a national trend with healthcare. I don't know what's going to happen. I cannot predict that. But we are working very diligently to keep the costs down.
Ruth, at the BOCES board meeting, there was some discussion about a new health insurance possibility that they were looking into. And one of the districts, I can't remember, it might have been Fallsburg. Classically, it's usually Fallsburg. Fallsburg actually offered this other insurance with no copay to get teachers to move to it. Do you know anything about that? I can't remember the letters. It was...
I'd have to talk to Mr. Greco, which I could reach out to. I certainly will reach out to him and find out what they're doing. We could...
And the BOCES knows too, so Susan Schmidt you could also talk to.
We could very well offer another plan.
Yes.
There's no reason why we can't, as long as we maintain a plan that is comparable to what we currently offer, because it's a negotiated item.
Negotiations, yes. Okay, well, I just wanted to bring you up to, because I was surprised to hear that, but it's apparently going around, and so I think Liberty's doing it. Not only, just offering something additional, I believe, is what's happening.
Yes.
But I didn't, I can't remember the name of the company, but I don't know.
Yeah, and they've not had a county business officials meeting recently, so we haven't discussed it.
Any other old business?
To go back to the bus leasing, so the buses are coming mid-August, just to clarify?
Correct.
And who is providing the buses? Which company?
Matthews Buses.
Matthews Buses. How many other bids did we receive?
On the financing, one.
And how many did we receive for the actual obtaining of the building of the buses? Just Matthews?
They're on New York State contract. No, we had two others
Yeah, we had
also come
three.
in. We had three companies.
The board looked at them together, in
Yes.
fact, I remember that.
Matthews was the best bang for the buck because they're giving the parts, the replacement parts, and the buses actually came in cheaper.
And we're still sticking with that, we're getting 16 buses?
Correct.
And again, just to clarify, you're selling the old buses, the bid will be started next week?
Yes.
And you're posting that in all of the newspapers as well as online with BOCES, is that correct? The DMO? DMO, is that correct?
DCM.
DCMO, thank you. I knew I was missing a letter there. And do we have any anticipation as to how quickly, I know you said that it's typically about 3 weeks that the bid will remain open and then they go, but how quickly is the turnaround to get them out of the bus garage? Because my understanding is there is very limited space there. So my concern stems from where is it all going to fit over there? The
They
parking lot
have
is
the
only
whole
so
upper
big.
parking lot.
Okay.
That's a big parking lot.
Okay,
There's plenty of room over there.
okay.
And the drivers are not there, so their personal vehicles are not in that lot. And I want those, as soon as these people, they're awarded, I want these people to pick these buses up and get them out of here.
And they're going to want them too for the new school year, so they're going to move
Yeah.
quickly, hopefully. Okay? Any other old business? New business?
Really, there's no other old business, guys.
Brian, what?
Okay,
Why would you say
it's
that?
fine. I mean, honestly, Carol, please, there's no other old business?
No.
Okay.
New business, anybody?
You have to appoint the audit committee.
Okay, and how do I go about appointing an audit committee?
Usually it's, in the past, we've had two board members and a member of the community.
Oh, that would, got it.
Mr. Clark, is it true you consented to serve again, sir?
That's correct.
So
Thank you
Mr.
very
Clark
much.
has consented to serve again.
Thank you very much. And we have two board members.
Amador did before.
Do we need motions, recommendations? What do we need? Volunteers?
Volunteers.
I'll volunteer. Throw my feet in there, why not?
Okay. Any other volunteers?
I'll go get it.
Thank you, Amador. I didn't give you much choice. Okay, that's our audit committee.
It has to be in the form of a motion.
Okay, somebody make this motion. Mr. Clark, Ms. Wagner, and Mr. Laput.
I make that motion.
Second?
I'll second that.
Let's vote. Any discussion? Let's vote. Allison?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
I'll vote yes. Linda?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I know, I'm sorry. And Amador?
Yes.
Okay. Last public comment, number 10.
I'm sorry,
I'm sorry, is there no other new business?
Yeah,
Sorry.
just one very brief item. I probably should have commented this as it was on the consent agenda, but with regards to the resignation of Mr. Glodish as the music teacher here, I just would like to say that it's not a run-of-the-mill loss to the district, in my opinion. The key elements, the choral groups, the whole music program in general, it's not just Mr. Glodish, but Mr. Nivison and Mrs. Martirano as well, are a significant strength and a unique strength of Eldred. We've celebrated it, we've discussed it many times. I would just suggest that as we replace Mr. Glodish, that we're very deliberate in our scrutiny and our high level of expectation for the quality of person that we replace him with, because you just can't bring somebody, we can't afford to bring somebody less than what we're giving up here. We've got to keep this thing going strong because it is a very special thing in Eldred. And I would suggest that if we convene an interview panel, that to make this recommendation, I believe the board, at least one of the board members should be involved in that, as we all, I agree, I've heard us all verbalize our commitment to the arts and the music programs. So that's what I would suggest. The board's involved in the hiring process.
It's not appropriate for the board to be involved
In the
hiring
interview process. In the interview
It's
process.
not appropriate.
The board should never be involved in an interview or recruitment.
Not for a teacher.
Well, we can't screw this one up.
And we trust our administrator to do that.
You do.
I do.
Okay.
You know what?
Go ahead, Linda.
Can
Let's hear it.
can I toss something around? Could we make, how do I say this, one of the job duties of the new, he's vocal, okay. I don't know if we could do it. To be, in charge of the musical.
We already have people approved this year. They usually get involved.
I mean,
We have no one approved for the fall or the spring.
because we,
That is usually part of the requirements when they are interviewed and hired.
which kills me, because then they all of a sudden say, I don't want to do it, and then.
It's the same with the people that coach too. We
So
have the
can
same
we-
problem. But that's our intent, and that's,
Okay,
we're
thank you.
advertising it as a choral position, but that's part of the interview process.
Excellent.
Very, very good.
I saw the ad. I mean, the ad is like a kind of a classified ad that says we're looking for a choral teacher. I guess the point I'm trying to make is that's not what Mr. Glodish did for us.
I'm
And-
well aware of what Mr. Glodish did to us, and I'm also well aware of how important the music program is to us, and the same administrative team that you seem to question Mr. Siegel hired Mr. Glodish.
Did I question the administrative team?
Well, you're questioning the ability to hire without our help.
That's all right. That's-
Okay.
I mean.
Any other new business? Final public comment. I saw your hand first.
Scotty Greenberger, and my question, I have several, after this long meeting, I have several things on mind, but I'm sick of what I came here for. Regarding the bus, so that, the busing is a done deal, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, and you're getting 16 buses?
Yes.
What's the size of the buses?
14 66 passenger and 2 minibuses, one with wheelchair access.
Okay. And where is Matthews from?
Malone, New York.
Okay. So this is gonna cost, what's it,
1.4 million.
4 million, for
5
5
years.
years, okay. And did anyone ever consider buying new buses or slightly used buses, like a year or two old?
We have done that in the past, and it's been found that when you buy used, you're buying someone else's problems. They have not lasted. They've cost us a lot of money in repairs, major repairs, not simple repairs. At this point in time, we would have to go out to bond the purchase of new buses, and I don't advise that because we already have debt service on the books. In 4 or 5 years, we have debt service rolling off, and we could go out to bond buses, and it would be advisable at that time, because if you don't have debt service on the books, you compromise your tax levy limit.
So, is it everything, every single bus that you have now, you have how many buses altogether? Existing buses?
Well, we've excised 5 that I know of, and I believe we had 18, I believe, and we've excised 5 because they were no longer roadworthy.
Okay.
And we have 5 more that DOT just pulled off the road. So we are down to 8 to be
So,
sold.
of those 8 buses, those are still viable transportation?
They are going to be put up for sale.
No, but that's not what I asked.
Can we answer the question?
Viable transportation.
We asked a direct question.
Yes, they are viable
They
buses
passed
for
DOT
now.
Wait, they have passed
Yes.
DOT inspection.
The DOT did not inspect them in June because they knew that we were getting new buses, so they did not inspect them.
Well, maybe they should have been inspected anyway. Okay, the other point that I want to bring out is, how much does a new bus cost? That's New York compliant.
It's roughly $90,000.
Okay, it's roughly a little bit more than I did some research on.
Well, it's New York State contract.
No, I went through the appropriate line.
Okay.
And it seems that New York State compliant buses have the highest standards of any bus, of any state in the United States. I was told.
I agree with you.
Okay. They have to have high back seats, they have to all have seat belts, whether they're used or not, and it's a whole bunch of safety things that drive the cost up of the bus.
Sure.
But what I'm saying is, at the end of 5 years, and I realize about the debt factor, that you want to have debt on the books, which is a good thing. At the end of 5 years, how are we going to all of a sudden say, okay, we're going to give up leasing, assuming that we say that we're not going to use leasing again, and we're going to be in such debt, it would be over $1 million debt. Again, if you're going to buy new buses again. So my feeling is, why didn't we just go out and buy the buses to begin with?
Well,
And the finance rate is 2.95%. And that's good quality, which is locally right here in Sparrowbush. And they work for the New York Bus, I think. It's one big conglomeration of things. And they're all over the state. And evidently they didn't get to bid on this project.
they certainly could have.
But no, you didn't say they couldn't. They didn't.
They did not
Because they
submit
didn't know
one.
about it. So my
No,
question.
that is incorrect, because I talked to one of the owners of Quality, and he knew what we were doing.
I'm not talking about the man in Sparrowbush. I'm talking about their main office, which is, this is just like a storage place for these buses. And those are used buses, basically, that are down there. But, and doing the research that I did, and I'm not saying that it was overly in-depth, but some of them said, we know about the schools in Sullivan County. We had, one man said to me, he said, I'm right up here, and I have his name up. And he said, I never even heard of Eldred School. He said, and I said, well, did anyone have a bid on it? No, not to my knowledge, there's nothing at all. And my feeling is that why doesn't somebody solicit bids and say, okay, go here, go here, go here, and bring in the bids and say, this is what we want. Because a lot of people don't look at advertisements for bidding.
If they want to bid, they should.
Excuse me?
If they want to bid, they should be watching for bidding
I'm sure-
opportunities.
I'm not denying that. I'm not denying it.
Okay.
But sometimes it just, goes by the wayside. It's like public notices in a newspaper, right? How many people read the hundreds of notices that come out in every newspaper? I mean, it just doesn't happen.
No, I
Sometimes you have
agree
to
with that.
But they're
solicit
online,
this.
so.
All right.
We did not put our
Okay.
bid on.
So, I mean,
My
right
mother's
now,
in this
it's
business,
really-
and she did not see our bid posted.
Is that true? Our bid was not posted online?
On the website?
There is a central database for bids. My mother's company
BidNet.
does this. and
Empire,
there was
Hudson Valley.
nothing that was posted for the Eldred School District. She went all the way back into May and did not see anything there.
Well, I did work with DCMO BOCES, and I did work with Matthews Bus Sales on who usually bids on bus lease
But you worked with anybody else?
No, on who does bus lease financing. There's very few financing companies that do bus lease financing.
I found them right away. I'm gonna leave that from Google, got it. And they finance.
Okay, I think we do that.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
and I'm gonna go a little further. So let's say you bought, by the way, a one-year-old bus, right? With 15,000 miles, I'm talking about 2017, which is now considered one-year-old. But any new buses that come out are registered with 2018. I learned it because I did, like I say, not overly in-depth research, but whatever. And $80,000 is a 2017 bus, is what the retail market on that bus right now, with 15,000 miles. I found out that in Ithaca School District, you all heard of Ithaca, they gave up all of their 2013 buses, the average mileage 68,000 miles on the buses. And some of them had less miles. And I asked them, I said, how is it, how do you, they took them in trade. I said, now how do you get rid of these buses? He said, people want these buses so badly because they only consider, even a 13, consider a 5-year-old bus. And we said that's what they want. But this particular school district had 5 years that the buses are gone. Now, maybe because of problems, maybe because they have a lot of money, who knows, but that's their policy. But my feeling is that some of your viable buses that are still there could still be saved and not bought so many, or taken over so many buses, which would lessen the cost down. In which case, you maybe buy a 2-year-old bus, which would have 30,000 miles on it, and then you're not buying somebody else's problem.
I do understand what you're saying, but when you go out to buy buses, you have to put it out to bid. So there's no guarantee you're going to get those, or you're going to get exactly what you want, unless you're very specific.
You have to get New York compliant, and you have to get the type that are going to be for children that cannot ride a regular bus. And I understand that. And it should be also the fact that it has to be one seat for every child. You explained this to me last time, I listened to you. But still, when you look at the buses are like heavy when they're riding along. So you could theoretically say, well, okay, I can get away with some of the newer buses and some of the older buses and say, okay, I can use this viable and save the money. Save money. Okay, so that's my feeling. Am I against the idea of leasing the buses? Yes, very much. When I spoke to other people from other school districts, they don't like leased buses either. Do some schools lease buses? Yes, they do. But I don't feel it's a viable thing for us. We could have bought some new buses, saved the viable ones, and then down the line, we have a new bus, which will last us with the proper maintenance 10 years, which a lot of school districts go 10 years with a bus. How old are the buses that you're selling now?
Off the top of my head, I can't answer that question.
Ballpark, 10?
Some are 10, some are longer, some are older. Some are younger that we put out of service because they have major mechanical problems.
Okay. Well, is that a problem with the mechanics?
No. No. You're buying used buses. You don't know how they were cared for prior.
That's true. But what about the service records that come along with the buses right now? Every bus that is sold that it went through DOT has service records. So you can say, hey, wow, this one had this one, this one had, well, I don't want that bus. And then you can be pick and choosy. Just like the guy said to me today, he said, in Ithaca they had all of these buses, a whole slew of them, maybe 30, 40 buses. And
Thank you.
Pick. And I said, he asked me how many he looked for. I don't know, maybe 8 or 10 buses. Then you can pick.
Thank you. I appreciate all that information, and I do think it's good information, and to hear that people are researching and asking questions. Thank you very much. This is kind of a...
I have another question.
Okay.
Okay. Only came up tonight. You're getting a raise from what I understand. How did someone arrive at that number? Is it an arbitrary number that you picked, so that's what you wanted? Or did someone say, well, you get a 2% raise or 4% raise, whatever it is? And where did the number come up from?
This was recommended in an executive session based on Mrs. Lewis's performance.
Oh, sure. Everybody has performance. But I don't understand where that number came up from. What were you making beforehand, what are you making now? What was the increase? Was it $8,000, $10,000, $15,000, whatever? It just seems, when you mentioned 2.2, somebody's getting a raise 2.2%?
She didn't get a
Is this 2.2?
raise tonight, sir.
Excuse me?
She didn't get a raise tonight, sir.
No increase in her.
She got no increase in her salary tonight, sir.
So why were they,
We have to approve her salary every year.
and that was what she was making last year? I'm asking. I don't know. And that's public knowledge with everybody's
Yes, it
salary.
is. It's public information, public knowledge.
Is no public information, I'm sorry. But, so, was that what she was making last year?
That's why there's no increase this year, because we,
I didn't know the number, just now.
I don't know specific numbers offhand, but
Well, I know the specific numbers. We, 2 months ago, we voted as a board, it was a 4-to-1 vote, and we voted to give Ms. Lewis an $11,500 raise last year and to give her a new title, School Business Administrator. This year, we are renewing that service for another year at that same rate. There's no additional increase this year.
Okay, so now I'm going to clarify this. It was not $11,500. I was being paid $76,500 last year. I finished my education and got my advanced certificate as a school district business leader. When I was hired, I was told when I finished my certification, my advanced certificate, I would be given a $10,000 increase. So I finished, and in March, I was given a $10,000 increase as
per our agreement.
I worked for the Board of Education, and every time I got more certification, master's degree, second master's degree, et cetera, I got more money. So
Sure.
that ain't so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Greenberger.
Continue.
Is there any other public comment? Yes.
Hey,
Hi, Ms. Lombardi.
before I forget, the August board meeting is going to be when? It was
The
changed.
third Thursday. 17th. 17th. August 17th.
So I couldn't attend last month, but I listened to the video. And my name came up again, a lot of praise, and it's humbling. In all of my years of worked since I'm 11 years old, I have never been spoken of so nicely. And I know what it's like.
Well, we didn't mean it.
Yeah, I know. But the letter that I wrote to the board was not read. And there were some important points that I just would like to verbalize.
Sure.
I don't have a big head over the compliments because I keep going back to why was I recognized this year? It's not because I'm better than my colleagues, it's because I'm surrounded by great people. I've worked in other teaching positions earlier on in my career. One where I had no guidance by administration, I had no opportunities to collaborate, and there was no constructive criticism. It was always criticism. And then I had another job where my colleagues did not help me as a new teacher, and they were outright nasty. And I was too young and innocent to take a stance and call them out on that. But I was smart enough to know that I didn't deserve that. And I moved on. So most of my career has been in Eldred, raised my kids. Now I'm back to being able to do more things that I don't have children at home. And I think about why I can do the things that I'm doing right now. And that's because I have an amazing partner, Ms. Davis. So it starts right there. If I didn't have an amazing partner, I wouldn't be able to do the things I would, because I would go to Ms. Keegan with an idea and say, I'd like to do this, but my partner doesn't want to do this. And then she'd say, well, you know, you can't have one class doing this and not the others. There's no unity. And if an idea is appreciated. And we'll go to Ms. Keegan and say, we have an idea, what do you think? And she embraces it, but she says, you know, I really need to clear this with Ms. Lewis or Dr. Dufour, and they squash it. You know, there's only so many times that you can come up with ideas and get them squashed. Because then you say, all right, you know, I'll just do my job and that's it. But in our world here, we have a building principal who is supportive. Doesn't mean she agrees with everything. We have conversations about it. We have a superintendent who is embracing our efforts. And we have a school business administrator who has also been above and beyond supportive. And we need those three individuals because they are our superiors. But then all of us in that building at Mackenzie work together more than you know. Kindergarten has collaborated with each grade level. You know, 5th grade does, they'll pop into kindergarten and talk with the kids and do a little project with the children. 4th grade, 3rd grade, 2nd grade, they take advantage of Rivers Raving Reviews, the board that displays exemplary work. So, as subtle as it may be, the reason that I'm successful is because of all the people around me. It's not that I'm an amazing teacher or, you know, that I've invented things in education that nobody else has heard before. It really is that when you receive praise and you receive encouragement from your leaders, that you're just, the adrenaline rushes and you can, you just want to work harder and think outside the box more, and then you're not afraid to say, I have another idea, you think it's workable. So I just wanted to highlight that. I really appreciate the accolades that I've received lately, but it takes that whole group of people. So
Thank you, June. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And that's what Eldred has always been known for, a family, am I right?
Yeah.
Any other public comment?
Quick thing on 621. It says approval of the independent audit. Who is the independent auditor? Shouldn't that be listed in that?
Cooper Arias is the independent auditor.
And where are they from?
Okay. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion.
Excuse me, I need
Yes.
an executive session for specific contractual and student-related matters.
Okay.
And I do anticipate doing business coming out of executive session.
You do.
Yes.
I'll make that motion.
I'll
Sorry.
second.
Allison?
Yes.
Brian?
I'd like to address the board before, if that's okay. I just want to say, I'm happy to be here. I'm honored to be here. I consider it a privilege. I also appreciate your faith in me coming in here and doing a good job. I can assure you that we will develop a football program that the school and the community can be proud of. And I mean, proud of on and off the field. There's a lot of ways to measure success, and winning football games is just part of it. To me, real success is developing relationships with your players, colleagues, and producing players that become good fathers, good husbands, good people in the community. So that's what we're going to strive to do. We'll run a comprehensive football program that's 12 months out of the year. And, you know, it's my goal to get a very dedicated football coaching staff here. You'll hear me talk to the kids about winning all day long. You know, you're constantly going to say, did you waddle today? And that means win all day long. You know, as you guys know, it's a huge undertaking to restart this football program and get it respectable. I'm totally 100% confident in the fact that we can, make this football program successful on and off the field. And we'll have an academic game plan for each student, as well as an offensive game plan, defensive game plan, and special teams game plan. With that being said, this is obviously a pretty special place with special people leading the charge. I'm glad I came here today and was able to witness this. There's obviously people that really care and want the best for the community, the students, the teachers, and everybody involved here. I'm 100% confident with the support of the board, the school, that we can restore this thing in Yellow Jacket football. And that's really all I had to say.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Okay, did we
We
do
voted,
that
we two of
motion?
us voted, I think.
Okay, I vote yes. Yes.
Yes.
We're gonna go picture.
Where are we going?
As soon as we're done with the picture, we're gonna go across the hall diagonally to Mrs. Koenig's room.
I'm sorry, is there going to be business afterwards? I didn't hear that.
Yes,
Oh.
I anticipate it.
Okay.
Doesn't necessarily
You doing that
mean it will
picture?
be, but I anticipate it.
Yeah, let's do it and get it. I might not look this good next month.
That's what I said.
You want us to?
Our picture.
Table and standing.
About right, it's a sauna down there.
Suddenly it got real warm. You're like, oh, God.
You're on?
So we need to make.
Motion to come out of executive session at 10:32.
Second,
Voting?
voting. We have two motions.
No, you gotta get a
We
vote
gotta get out
on
of-
coming back in.
Oh, okay. Do you want to come back in? Do you want to come back
Yes.
in? I want to come back in?
Yes.
Linda? Got it.
I have a motion. The board hereby approves the addendum to the December 15, 2016 contract between the superintendent and the board in relation to payment for life/disability insurance. The board president is authorized to sign the addendum. That's my motion. Do I have a
So you're
second?
making that motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
And discussion? Voting? Allison?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
I'll vote yes.
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 This would be 7:13. Would it be 7:13?
Let her figure it out.
Okay. I have a motion.
She typed it, so it's gotta be.
Approval upon the recommendation of the superintendent and in consultation with legal counsel is hereby resolved that the settlement agreement resolving the outstanding impartial hearing is hereby approved. I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second? Thank you.
Hey, no problem.
Discussion? Vote? Allison?
Yes.
Mr. Siegel?
Yes.
I'll vote yes.
Yes.
Yes. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
10:34.
Second. We all
Voting?
want to jump on that.
Voting?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Stay.